Okay, everyone. I'm going to call the meeting to order. And I want to say welcome to, it's hard to believe, December 1st council meeting of the City of St. John. We start every meeting with a land acknowledgement. And this evening, Councillor Norton will read that for us. So I'll pass that over to you, Councillor Norton, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. The land on which the City of St. John, or Mennequist, is situated is the traditional territory of the Wolastoqiyik. The Wolastoqiyik, along with their indigenous neighbors, the Mi'kmaq and Pescatomakati, signed peace and friendship treaties with the British Crown in the 1700s that protected their rights to lands and resources.
We'll just pause for a few seconds, reflect on those words. And I'll ask everyone to please stand for the national anthem. Okay, City Clerk, over to you for the next item.
Thank you, Your Worship. Next on the agenda is approval of November the 17th minutes.
November 17th minutes. Councillor Radwan and Councillor Darling on the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Next item.
And next is the approval of the agenda, and there are a number of additions. I'll just go through them quickly. So 17.1 from Committee of the Whole, recommendation with respect to appointments to committees. 17.2, amended and restated agreement of purchase and sale at 324 Charlotte. 17.3 would be a funding agreement, Firehouse Subs Public Safety Foundation of Canada. 17.4, local leadership for climate adaptation. 17.5, it's a ROFR Market Square. 17.6 is Housing for All resolution. And 17.7, Community Safety and Security Team Contract Award.
Okay, I'll take a motion to approve the agenda as read by the clerk, the deputy, and Councillor Darling on the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Next item.
Next, disclosure of conflict of interest, if we have any.
Not seeing any. Next item.
And next is the consent agenda.
Deputy, over to you to read the consent agenda, please.
Thank you, Worship. I would move 5.1 through to 5.6, please.
Take a seconder on that. Councillor Sullivan on the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Next item.
And next is item number 6, members' comments.
Members' comments. Councillor Radwan, over to you first.
Thank you, Mayor. The City Market is, they're actually putting on a market mingle, which is taking place this Thursday, December 4th, from 5 until 7 p.m. It's always a good time. It's actually, I think it's an initiative, actually, of the Local Immigration Partnership Group and everybody that is working with them. Sadly, things have been canceled because they think that weather is going to be bad on December the 3rd for International Day for Persons with Disabilities. But they're going to be reconvening to do an event, which is like a human library. So you get to go and take out a book and ask questions. So that it's a really, really neat idea. So they'll be doing that in the new year. I know community is really disappointed. The Ability Advisory Committee has been working hard on this. And you have a proclamation today, Mayor, but I did want to say a couple of words because the Day for Persons with Disabilities reminds us that inclusion is not just a value, but it's actually a responsibility. The day actually celebrates strength and creativity and contributions of persons with disabilities while also calling attention to the barriers, physical barriers, social barriers, attitudinal, that still exist today. Disability is not a limitation. The barriers are. And when we remove those barriers, we create communities where everyone can participate, belong, and thrive. Inclusion benefits all of us. It makes our schools, workplaces, societies stronger, more compassionate, more innovative. So let's take the time to still raise awareness, take action, to listen, learn, advocate, and build environments that respect and support every person's dignity and potential. I just want personally to say that I want the community to know that I'm still committed to continuing to advocate on their behalf in this role. And I look forward to us knocking down barriers for the 35.3% of New Brunswickers that have some form of a disability. So anyway, and please everybody stay tuned because Mayor has a proclamation later.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Sullivan, over to you.
Thanks, Your Worship. Happy St. Andrew's Day yesterday to those citizens in St. John of Scottish descent. I made sure to wear my St. John tartan when I attended their dinner on Saturday night as their token Irishman. And, you know, the St. Andrews Society, there seemed to be a lot of haggis, whiskey, and poetry. So congratulations. The St. Andrews Society has been in St. John since, I can't remember, it was 1790 something.
That's it.
So it's probably the
98.
oldest cultural society we have in St. John, and we have so many now who are happy to be St. Johners and Canadians, but still cherish our ancestry. So happy St. Andrew's Day.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Darling?
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to shout out quickly a few events happening this week in our Uptown area, kicking off the holiday season. I think we're all anxiously awaiting Uptown Sparkles this Friday evening. That's going to be kicked off by our mayor's tree lighting at 6 p.m. in partnership with St. John Energy. I know I'll be there, bundled up, hopefully a bit less than last year, but hope to see some folks out there. And also kicking off today is the Gingerbread Trail, which I don't know how many other folks love hunting down the incredible masterpieces at different businesses in our Uptown area and seeing what people can create out of gingerbread, knowing how mine look from the kit. But they're really beautiful, and I challenge folks to go see how many they can discover here this week and through the rest of December. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Darling. Councillor Ogden, over to you.
Not so much a happy note, but last week I attended funeral parlor a couple times and went to a funeral. And it was all about overdoses and fentanyl and everything. And the funeral was huge. A lot of family members, a lot of friends, a lot of kids I taught. And it was heartbreaking. And I know that we have people who are mentally ill, and I know we have homeless people, and they're not always the same, but there are people preying on those people. And I just wish we could do more. I know sometimes we think, well, it's coming from Asia, going to Central and South America, coming here, or they're now building labs in Canada. What can we do? But I really think that we can make our streets safer. I keep thinking of the broken window effect, because you feel that you can't do anything. I stood over the gravesite of it with a mother who said, "What can we do?" And they were huge numbers that turned out, and these were people who were preyed upon. And my heart goes out to it, and I know there's drama or trauma, and I know that there's lack of education, and I know there's poor housing, that type of thing. But we've got to do something. That fentanyl, it's not like in the 70s and 80s where you smoke some weed or have a beer. This stuff is deadly right off. So I just want to give my best to those families. It was really heartbreaking. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. That's great for you to bring that, a little bit of perspective on that and to bring that forward, because we need to be thinking about that all the time. I'll mention as well that I was also at the St. Andrews Society, and I think it was Ross Galbraith who said it was enacted in 1798, I think he said. He claimed it was the oldest one in Canada. So that's pretty impressive. I didn't wear the city's tartan. You have a tie in the city's tartan. Okay, I didn't want to wear a tie and I don't have one. But I wore the Black Watch. I have a Black Watch shirt, and that is apparently not linked to any clan, and it is actually a military uniform, and I felt that was somehow appropriate. So that was that. Oh, I wanted to bring a quick comment about Uptown Sparkles. I want to take a moment to highlight the incredible community spirit we're seeing as we head into the holiday season. Uptown Sparkles is this Friday, and this year I'm introducing the Mayor's Christmas Tree Ornament Exchange. It's a simple idea that really my staff, I have to give Hannah and Kateri credit for this, that have come up with, that will hopefully provide an opportunity for families, residents, and local businesses to share a piece of themselves with the community. We'll have the tree set up in front of City Hall. Anyone attending is invited to bring an ornament that represents their family, their culture, traditions, or creativity, and in return, you can take an ornament from the tree and bring it home. It creates a meaningful exchange between neighbors across the city. So my team and I will have a few ornaments placed to start things off. The tree will continue to grow and change throughout the evening and hopefully until Christmas. I encourage everyone to come out, enjoy the festivities, and help make the tree a true reflection of the people who call St. John home. Bring an ornament, take an ornament, and help us fill the tree with pieces of our community. I hope all the ornaments will be taken home by the end of the evening, so come out this Friday, December 5th at around 5:30 in front of City Hall. We'll light up the tree around 6 to kick off the holidays with Uptown Sparkles together. And I just wanted to mention one brief note that the city of St. John has been lobbied to raise the Palestinian flag. And we took that under careful consideration, and we recognize that moment of recognition would give comfort, for people. We want people to know that our thoughts and our hearts are with the Palestinian community, especially for people who have been impacted by the war. We want to be compassionate. We want to offer support. We understand it's an emotional burden. We want to be mindful of the impacts of the war. And so a friend of mine, Kash Khan, is the person who really, I guess, lobbied for this the hardest. And Kash is from Pakistan, but he said that he's Muslim, and he said that Palestine has the third most important mosque, he said, for Muslims around the world. So I guess we looked to the province, and we looked to the feds, and we don't have an advisor in these geopolitical situations. And so I wanted to make this comment tonight that our hearts are with all people of Gaza who've been in Gaza and people who've been killed, with the families, that we extend our condolences to them, and we recognize that this is not easy. It's not easy for anyone. So thank you. Next item, City Clerk.
Thank you, Your Worship. Next on the agenda is a proclamation, item 7.1, and this is for International Day of Persons with Disabilities.
So Councillor Radwan mentioned this earlier. So whereas the United Nations has designated December 3rd as the International Day of Persons with Disabilities to promote understanding of disability issues and to mobilize support for the dignity, rights, and well-being of persons with disabilities around the world. And whereas the theme for this year's observance, Fostering Disability-Inclusive Societies for Advancing Social Progress, reminds us of the importance of inclusion, accessibility, and equality in every aspect of community life. And whereas the City of St. John values diversity and recognizes that persons with disabilities are integral members of our community, contributing their skills, their talents, and their perspectives to our city's societal, cultural, and economic vitality. And whereas the City of St. John is committed to building an inclusive community by supporting accessibility initiatives, by removing barriers, and by ensuring that all residents have equal opportunities to participate fully in civic life. And whereas this day serves as an important reminder of the ongoing work required to create a community where every person is respected, included, and empowered to reach their full potential. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Donna Node Reardon of St. John, on behalf of the members of Common Council, do hereby proclaim December 3rd, 2025 as International Day of Persons with Disabilities in the City of St. John, and I encourage all residents, organizations, and businesses to join in promoting understanding, acceptance, and inclusion of persons of all abilities. Next item, City Clerk.
Thank you. And next on the agenda is the public hearing. We're a little bit early, so we could skip over that for now until 6:30.
Okay.
Next item would be then 10.1 on your agenda, and this is a public presentation for a proposed municipal plan amendment at 0 Rex Hurley, Glen Road.
Commissioner Poffenroff, over to you to read this into the minutes.
Thank you, Your Worship. For Council's information, a public presentation is a procedural requirement under the Provincial Community Planning Act for municipal plan amendment applications. This evening's public presentation for a site identified at 0 Rex Hurley Boulevard and 0 Glen Road, which are also identified as a portion of PID 003-02778 and 004-20802. Commences a 30-day public review period during which members of the public may provide written submissions on the application as an early step in the process. Any submissions received will come back to council following the close of the 30-day public review period for consideration before moving forward in the process. Following the 30-day review period, it is anticipated that on January 12th, 2026, Common Council will refer the application to the Planning Advisory Committee for review and recommendation. Given this, the application is tentatively scheduled for the January 20th Planning Advisory Committee meeting and a public hearing at Common Council meeting of February 9th. With that as an introduction, I will now read into the public record a copy of the public notice that commences the 30-day public review period. The location of the subject property can now be viewed on the screen. Public notice is hereby given that the Common Council of the City of St. John intends to consider an amendment to the municipal development plan that would, 1, redesignate on Schedule A of the municipal development plan land having an approximate area of 5.5 hectares identified as a portion of PID 003-02778 and 004-20802 from rural resource area and park and natural area to stable area, as illustrated, and 2, redesignate on Schedule B of the municipal development plan land having an approximate area of 5.5 hectares identified as a portion of PID 003-02778 and 004-20802 from rural resource and park and natural area to stable residential, and extend the boundary of the primary development area as illustrated on the screen. The reason for the change is to permit an expansion of the existing mini home park. Written objections to the proposed amendment may be made by council by Wednesday, December 31st, and inquiries may be made to the office of the city clerk or Growth and Community Services in City Hall between 8:30 and 4:30, Monday through Friday, inclusive, and holidays are accepted.
Thank you, Commissioner. Oh, are you finished? Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. All right, next item, City Clerk.
Next is 10.2. This is the Business Improvement Levy Bylaw Amendment. And just to provide a little background, so council would have seen this at its last meeting, but the business improvement area in Uptown St. John imposes a 16-cent levy for each $100 assessed value on non-residential property within the BIA. And the funds collected from the levy are are administered by Uptown St. John for BIA promotion and programming. So as council will recall at its last meeting on November 17th, the BIA budget was approved and council gave first and second reading to the bylaw. So here we have third reading of the bylaw. If approved, the levy rate will be maintained at 16 cents per $100 of assessed value within the BIA.
Okay, I'll take a motion. Councillor Darling, Councillor Harris, on the question? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Next item, City Clerk.
And I just have to read that bylaw
sorry.
quickly and one more approval. So this is bylaw number BIA 2, Business Improvement Levy Bylaw. The Business Improvement Levy Bylaw, the City of St. John enacted on the 3rd day of January 2006, is amended by repealing Section 2 thereof and inserting the following. 2, a levy of 16 cents for each $100 of assessed value is hereby imposed for 2026 upon non-residential property within the business improvement area established by bylaw number BIA 1, Business Improvement Area Bylaw, enacted on the 5th day of January 2004. And now just an approval by title, Your Worship.
Approved, motion to approve, third reading by title. Councillor Sullivan and Councillor Stewart on the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried.
Bylaw number BIA 2, Business Improvement Levy Bylaw.
Thank you. Okay, next item.
And it's now 6:30, so we can go back to the public hearings. And so item 9.1, under public hearing heading, is a proposed zoning bylaw amendment with Planning Advisory Committee report and staff presentation with respect to annual housekeeping text amendment.
Commissioner Poffenroff, over to you for the intro on this one.
Thank you, Your Worship, and members of council. This evening's first public hearing is for a series of text amendments that have been proposed by Growth and Community Services as part of the annual housekeeping amendments to the zoning bylaw. The amendments will address a variety of planning topics, including home occupations, residential accesses, and the definition for medium industrial use. The proposed amendments have been evaluated by staff and the Planning Advisory Committee, and included in your package is the recommendation to approve these amendments. Presenting this evening is Roseanne George, and a planner with our team, and Jennifer Krishner, the manager of community planning, and they will now present on the file. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner, Your Worship, members of council. Roseanne and I are very pleased to present the annual housekeeping amendments to you this evening. For those of you who have been around the table for a few years, every year we do try to come with a series of amendments to help facilitate improvements to our process, to keep up to date with best planning practices, and to really reflect good quality service and facilitate development within our community. Within the packet is a fairly robust chart that documents all the changes proposed. We will, through our presentation, touch on about 6 of those, but are available to answer questions on any of the ones illustrated within those documents. So I'll turn it over to Roseanne to start the presentation.
Okay. So over the past couple of years, staff has seen a growing number of inquiries requesting to establish home occupations within accessory buildings as opposed to the dwelling unit. Currently, home occupations must be developed within a dwelling unit. The proposed amendment will enable home occupations to be developed within either the dwelling unit or an associated accessory building. Oh, God. Okay. Sorry. The mouse not working. Okay. The existing standards associated with garbage enclosures only requires multi-unit residential buildings, 5 or more units, to provide enclosures for their outdoor garbage storage. The standards associated with garbage enclosures ensures that screening is in place to reduce the visual impact of garbage storage on the neighboring properties. This amendment would require that rooming houses with 10 rooms, commercial, institutional, and industrial developments align. Okay, why is this not going down?
Just a slight technical challenge. There you go.
This would thereby ensure a level of consistency across the city for a variety of uses. Clarification is also provided to ensure that the garbage enclosure requirements also include on-site storage of recycling and composting materials. There have been a number of planning applications that request for variances to be granted for independent accesses to be provided. The proposed amendment will outline specific criteria where the requirement of adjoining of accesses for dwelling units be waived. And those will be on conditions such as topographic constraints, on-street parking limitations, or site design, wherein you have the garage or the extended driveway that can provide 2 minimum parking spaces per dwelling unit. There will still be requests that will need variances, which will consider feedback from various service areas to assess the impact of the request on infrastructure and street parking.
Thank you, Roseanne. In addition to those amendments, we took a look at the local commercial zone. The intent of the local commercial zone was really to provide an opportunity for mixed-use development where there is commercial uses that serve the surrounding neighborhood. What we did find is while residential units are permitted, there was no stipulation in our existing zone to require that commercial component be included within the development. So what we did find could occur is someone could come in with a commercial, local commercial zone and propose solely a residential building, but built to a commercial site design standard. With this, we have proposed some standards that will require that when residential development is incorporated, it is part of a mixed-use site. So there would be standards for either having ground floor commercial with residential on top, or options for a mixed-use development if there are more than one building on site. So commercial that faces the street frontages, and residential that is maybe in the second building behind. So a prime example would be the Aquarius Towers. The first building has ground floor commercial, but that second building, once it's constructed, will not because there's no visibility from the street. With this, it will ensure that the building and site is designed for mixed use, and it will encourage those who are looking to do a purely residential product to rezone the site to a comparable residential zone that can really support the type of design and development they're looking at. For those who are familiar, residential standards are very much different than what you would build for a commercial development, including things such as parking, landscaping, and amenity space, and as well the type of buildings that you might find in residential site, like townhouses, may not work very compatibly with more of a commercial design standard. So it really is encouraging mixed-use development, but also working with the requirements of that zone and rezoning if required to really meet the needs of what you're proposing to undertake. In addition, electronic billboards have become an item that our Planning Advisory Committee has been seeing more frequently. Within our bylaw, a billboard sign is essentially third-party advertisement. It's established on a property and it advertises businesses and services that are not connected to that site. Electronic message boards are typically associated with more of community spaces or sports centers where they are advertising events and services that are tied to the site. So think a school advertising Parents' Day or track and field. We are seeing increased requests to convert existing billboards or to establish new billboards that are electronic in nature. And with that does come challenges to ensure that these sites and proposals are being fully assessed from a traffic and safety perspective. Within this, we have established some proposed criteria that establish separation distances between electronic billboards and things such as signalized intersections, crosswalks, and rail crossings. Requirement that a traffic impact study be undertaken to really assess site suitability, assess the safety of the site and whether there would be any impacts with the proposed type of signage, and to really establish these types of billboards as a PAC application subject to conditions. This will give staff, PAC, the public, and as well applicants a better framework for assessing these to ensure that they are being situated in appropriate sites and where possible, reducing any impact by ensuring they are not located perhaps directly adjacent to a lit crosswalk where visibility challenges could arise. And lastly, we have proposed some amendments to the medium industrial use. Members of council will be very familiar with some of the nuances within our different industrial definitions, light, medium, and heavy being the three definitions. Our current medium industrial use definition is essentially worded as anything that is not light or heavy. So basically, the light industrial emphasizes uses that are solely within a structure. Heavy industrial use acknowledges uses that largely maybe occur outside, have impacts that are very large scale, may impact beyond the property boundary, but medium does not have a fully nuanced definition that can help applicants, the public, and staff assess what type of category a proposal may fit with under. Within the new definition, it really clarifies that operational components such as manufacturing can occur on site. It indicates that some of these operations can occur outdoors. It establishes that the nuisance or risk factors will not really extend beyond the boundary of the lot, so it could occur outside, but would not have the same level of impact as a larger scale industrial, heavy industrial use, and as well that water can be utilized as part of the site operations. Within this, it really creates three levels. A light industrial use, for a manufacturer, the entire process would occur within the structure. So that would include loading and unloading of equipment, loading and unloading of materials that are complete, and no outdoor storage. So very much confined within an existing building. Medium industrial use would allow some components of the operation to occur outside. So you could have outdoor storage, maybe the unloading or loading of vehicles occurs outside. You may be dealing with the scale of materials that simply requires additional space in order to facilitate it outside of a structure. And the heavy industrial use would enable more large-scale use to maybe occur outdoor, including storage, or components of the manufacturing, particularly if there's larger scale equipment involved. This will help us as we move forward with applications to really ensure that the proposed use is fitting within the right category and that there is clarification to applicants, staff, council, and the public going forward with these types of applications.
So as for the public engagement, the public notice for the public hearing was posted on the city's website on the 6th of November. The public hearing for this application is today, and no letters was received in support or opposition. So it is our recommendation along with PAC that Council approved bylaw number CP 111211, which is a list of text amendments wherein staff are ensuring that the zoning bylaw continues to evolve to meet the changing needs of the community and address emerging development trends. Thank you.
Thank you both. Thank you, Jennifer, and thank you, Roseanne, and welcome to the city of St. John. Nice to have you on board. Okay, so now we'll hold questions like we do normally, and I'll now open the public hearing. So I'll ask if there's anyone here who would like to speak against the proposed zoning bylaw amendments with the Planning Advisory Committee report and staff report is just presented. I'm going to ask 3 times. So is there anyone here who would like to speak against the proposed zoning bylaw amendments? And I'll ask for the 3rd time if there's anyone here who would like to speak against the proposed zoning bylaw amendments. Okay, I'll ask if there's anyone here who would like to speak in favor of the proposed zoning bylaw amendments as proposed. And I'll ask again if there's anyone here who would like to speak in favor of the proposed zoning bylaw amendments. And I'll ask for the 3rd time if there's anyone here who would like to speak in favor of the proposed zoning bylaw amendments. So I will close the public hearing, and I will ask my team if you have any questions. So over to you first, Councillor Harris.
Thank you, Mayor. Just trying to get on the docket here. Correct me if I'm wrong. The requirements that we're imposing through this update around compost and recycling, those are a provincial mandated responsibility now. Is that my understanding, or are we imposing our own measures?
So through your worship to Councillor Harris, we require development that is not receiving municipal garbage pickup to ensure that they are providing space on their site to facilitate garbage pickup. That has been a standard for multi-unit residential buildings, whether it is outdoor dumpster storage facilities or internal. That is something that is required. In this case, it is stating that in addition, we want to make sure that those structures are in fact adequately screened as well. So it is up to the applicant to reach out to and arrange for garbage pickup, recycling, compost, what have you. But what we are proposing in this is that regardless of the land use, that there is screening around those structures and that they are placed in a way that will mitigate the impact to the street view as well as adjacent properties.
Okay, so really what we're doing here is imposing a level of restriction so that there's capacity to do that, because we cannot impose a mandate to recycle and compost for buildings 5 units or above, correct? And maybe the CAO can chime in, because this was a municipal reform item. And I'm just curious if there's any good announcement here, or if we're just trying to like pave the way for when it comes along.
Yeah, as it relates to the collection, maybe I'll ask our Commissioner of Public Works to chime in on that one.
Yes, through you, Your Worship, to the councillor. At present, as you know, we do not collect for any units that are above 4. They are responsible to make their own arrangements for collection. The recycling collection actually is under the purview of a provincial plan that's funded by the producers. And that is going to be rolling out to multi-unit developments. However, it is up to those units to actually make arrangements for any infrastructure and allow them to collect from those units.
Okay, that clarifies. So we're just trying to make sure that we're in a position of keeping up rather than trying to push. I could get you. All right, thank you.
Councillor Radwan, over to you next.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you to Jennifer. Just wanted to check and see with like office space. So I know that there was a few of us in the past that have had issues come up where there was businesses running out of residences, and not that they were unloading or loading, they weren't doing anything that would be like considered medium industry even, but they would have vehicles on the street parked, like big trucks, and in their yards. Would this kind of keep that from happening? I just have concerns that we would start getting calls all over again.
So we are not proposing any changes to the types of businesses that can operate as home occupations. And there is requirements in the zoning bylaw that the business be contained to the site. In regards to enforcement of vehicles parking on the street, that would be outside of the sort of scope of what is being looked at through this. The intent of home occupations are really supposed to be uses that have more of a limited impact to a neighborhood. So for example, a hair salon, they have maybe one or two individuals working in there. There'd be limited clients coming in and out. An accountant who maybe has people come in during tax season, but it wouldn't be uses where there should be large scale volume of individuals coming in and out of the site. There are limitations regarding amount of space that you can use, how you can store materials, as well as the number of non-resident employees that you can have. So there should not be, I guess, an individual who is getting transport trucks of material delivered daily or weekly to the property to facilitate that type of business.
Yep, no, that's perfect. So it's really needs to be contained to the indoor, with very little activity. So that's great. Thank you.
Okay, that looks like that's it for questions. I am thrilled to see the garbage enclosures. I'm finding that's becoming an issue as places are purchased and split up into multis. No space for anything, so let's put it on the curb. So happy to see that in there. Okay, City Clerk, over to you for the motions we need.
This one's simple, Your Worship, just two motions, approval first reading and approval second reading, both by title.
Okay, Councillor Lowe and Councillor Sullivan, first reading by title on the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Next item.
A law to amend the zoning bylaw of the City of St. John.
Okay, and I need a motion to approve second reading by title. Councillor Darling and Councillor Radwan on the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried.
A law to amend the zoning bylaw of the City of St. John.
Next item, City Clerk.
Next is 9.2 on your agenda. This is a second public hearing tonight. It's a proposed zoning bylaw amendment with PAC report and staff presentation for 259 Foster Thurston Drive, text amendment, business office use.
Okay, I'm passing this one over to Commissioner Poffenroth for the intro as well.
Thank you, Your Worship. This evening's second public hearing is for a text amendment to the Special Zone Number 3 that was submitted by the Heart and Stroke Foundation of New Brunswick. The amendment will add business office as a permitted use within the special zone. This will enable the relocation of the Heart and Stroke Foundation of New Brunswick's offices to 259 Foster Thurston Drive. The proposed amendment has been evaluated by staff and the PAC, and included in your package is the recommendation to approve the text amendment. I'll now turn it over to Roseanne George for the staff presentation. Thank you.
No? Yeah, okay. Good evening, Your Worship, councillors and city staff. Thank you so much for taking the time to attend, and we are pleased to present to you 259 Foster Thurston Drive, which is an amendment to the zoning bylaw. So the application, which is submitted by the Heart and Stroke Foundation of New Brunswick, seeks to amend the zoning bylaw to add the business office use as a permitted use in the special zone number 3 zone. The proposed amendment would allow the relocation of the Heart and Stroke Foundation New Brunswick offices. This would support their administrative operations, program delivery, and patient support. A subdivision application has been submitted by the applicant that is being tackled with internally at the development officer level. So as you can see on the screen, the subject property is located along the east-west running Foster Thurston Drive. The area is rural in nature and does not have access to municipal water and wastewater services. The surrounding neighborhood also contains rural residential development, commercial, and light industrial uses. The site is located in the north end of the city outside the primary development area and is served by a private well and septic system. It is adjacent to Rockwood Park and across the street from the YMCA Glen Carpenter Center. The site is well served by the city's road network with easy access to the highway and the St. John Regional Hospital. Due to the rural location, the site would not benefit from connection to other forms of transportation, including the broader city pedestrian network, bicycle routes, or public transit. So these are some photos of the access to the subject site, 259 Foster Thurston Drive. On the left is an image showing the east side of Foster Thurston Drive with the access to the existing Forest School, which will be converted to a business office for the Heart and Stroke Foundation once the business office use can be introduced to the site. And of course, a change of use permit will be issued at a later date to allow for this conversion. The photo on the right is an image showing the west side of Foster Thurston Drive with the Glenn Carpenter Center, north of the subject site. The subject site is designated rural resource within Plan SJ. The rural resource designation, just for some more clarity, is applied to lands outside of the primary development area, and they are intended to preserve the rural character of the area and facilitate the continued use of these lands for resource-related activities and for limited residential and non-resource-based land use. So a small area of the land at the northwest and southwest corners of the property are designated park and natural area due to the existing drainage and wetlands in the surrounding area. Any future site work in these portions of the property would definitely be subject to WAWA approval. The subject site was rezoned to a special zone, which promotes rural-style development with opportunities for other forms of land use within the rural context. So both policy, as for the policy alignment, both policy LU 95 and 126 of the municipal plan seek to ensure the compatibility of the amendments to the zoning bylaw and municipal plan. Policy LU 95, so this text amendment will essentially have minimum disruption to the site and will largely have the land that was formerly intended for the Forest School stay intact. The site is existing and the land has already been developed as a designated rural resource. The likelihood of the adjoining properties, which is, like I already alluded to, the Rockwood Park, which is owned by the city, and the YMCA Glenn Carpenter Center to undertake activities within the realm of resource extraction to be very slim. The areas adjacent to Rockwood Park are compatible with the rural resource area designation, and therefore the potential for land use conflicts to occur are slim to none. As for policy LU 126, the text amendment will enable the adaptive reuse of a former private school that will enable the relocation of their offices to the subject site, providing a new location for service provision. While business office is not strictly identified as a community use, the applicant, the Heart and Stroke Foundation of New Brunswick, is a nonprofit organization that provides health programs and services to the community. Sorry. Yeah, okay. The subject property is an existing forest school, zoned special zone number 3, like already said. And what this zone, it was developed to enable the property to be used for a school at the time, from kindergarten to 8, in addition to the range of uses permitted within the rural zone. And those uses range from resource-related activities such as agriculture, fishery, and forestry to residential, institutional, and commercial land uses, including animal shelters, veterinary clinics, and daycares, both home and neighborhood. With the closing of the school, the lodge and associated buildings and infrastructure have been underutilized, and the property owner was considering the best path forward. As for public engagement, letters were mailed out to property owners within 100 meters of the subject site on the 23rd of October. So what was done in terms of applicant engagement were property owners on Foster Thurston Drive, including the CEO of the YMCA. They were consulted and they were in support of the proposed use. There weren't any letters in opposition or support. The public notice for this public hearing was posted on the city's website on the 6th of November, and today is the public hearing for this application. So the PAC and staff are recommending that Common Council approve bylaw number CP 111210, which is a text amendment that would essentially add the business office as a permitted use in the special zone number 3, which aligns with the policy and land use directions laid out in Plan SJ and Zone SJ. Thank you so much.
Thank you again. All right, I'm now going to open the public hearing, and I will ask if there's anyone here this evening that would like to speak against this proposal for 259 Foster Thurston Drive. I'll ask again if there's anyone here who would like to speak against the proposal for 259 Foster Thurston Drive. And I'll ask for the third time if there's anyone here who would like to speak against the proposal for Foster Thurston Drive, number 259. I'll ask if there's anyone here who would like to speak in favor of the proposal, 259. Come on down and give us your name.
Good evening, Your Worship and Council. Thank you so much for allowing me to be here this evening. My name is Curtis Sisk. I'm the CEO of the Heart and Stroke Foundation of New Brunswick. I think Roseanne did a fantastic job, so I want to say thank you to Roseanne for presenting on our behalf. Happy to answer any questions this evening. I don't have a presentation, and I feel like Roseanne covered off most of the initiative that we're looking at, simply an amendment to a zoning bylaw. So happy to answer any questions you may have, and hope that we have your support.
Sounds good. Anyone have any questions? All right. Okay, absolutely. Councillor Stewart, over to you.
Hi. You have any plans for the rest of the property? Awful big property.
Yeah, we're actually only purchasing 15 acres of property. It is a big property, too big for our foundation. So the vendor is keeping the remainder of the property.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks.
Okay, that's it. Thank you very much. Thanks for being here this evening.
Thank you, my pleasure.
I'll ask for the second time if there's anyone here who would like to speak in favor of the proposal. Come on down and give us your name and your relationship to the property.
Tim Jones from Milledgeville. I own the piece of property that I've been working with Curtis on. I'm going to make this short and sweet. First off, I want to thank Curtis and his team. We've diligently been working at this for over a year now. Actually began our conversations a couple of years ago, and it's been a process, but we're really excited to get to this point and see a community initiative, not only for St. John, but the citizens are going to be serving from all across New Brunswick. So I highly encourage you to get out and support the Heart and Stroke Foundation. They're a fantastic foundation. I know myself as a heart patient who's had heart surgery, my brother, my father, who just recently had a stroke, and my mother-in-law had a stroke recently too. So there's a whole little story to be told behind all of this. So we're really excited to get to this point and see that success story. So thank you, Curtis. I also just want to take a quick opportunity and thank the staff of the city. Sometimes you go through these processes, sometimes they're difficult, sometimes they're a little bit easier. But I will say every step of the way, every question we had was answered promptly and encouraging, and even with recommendations and how we get it to this point of bringing it to council today. And last but not least, some of the council members around this table that I've spoken to and have encouraged us to keep going and bring this to fruition. Thank you. We appreciate that. It really sort of gave us the spark we needed to bring it here. And last but not least, I want to congratulate our CAO, Brent, Mr. McGovern, for not only your years of service with the city, but also your new endeavor coming up. So good luck with that, and thank you.
Okay, I don't see any questions for you. I hope you're giving the Heart and Stroke a good deal on that land, because it sounds like you're going to get your money's worth out of that team, or with your family, Tim. Okay, City Clerk, over to you for the motions.
Thank you, Your Worship. This one is similar to the other one. 2 motions required, approval of first and second reading by title.
So I'll take a motion to approve first reading by title. Councillor Lowe, Councillor Sullivan on the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
A law to amend the zoning bylaw of the City of St. John.
Now I'll take a motion to approve second reading by title. Deputy and Councillor Harris on the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
A law to amend the zoning bylaw of the City of St. John.
All right, thank you. Next item, City Clerk.
And the final public hearing is item 9.3, and this is a proposed zoning bylaw amendment with Section 59 conditions with a Planning Advisory Committee report and staff presentation for property at 421 Woodward Avenue.
Commissioner Poffenroff, over to you for the intro, please.
Thank you, Your Worship, and members of council. This evening's final public hearing is for a rezoning application for 421 Woodward Avenue that was submitted by Don Moore Surveys. The application would rezone 421 Woodward Avenue from the low-rise residential zone to the mid-rise residential zone to facilitate the development of 2 multi-unit buildings. The building adjacent to Woodward Avenue is proposed to be 4 stories, with the building adjacent to Boar's Head Road being proposed to be 6 stories. Section 59 conditions are also proposed and are in your package. Also in your agenda package is a supplemental report addressing a recommended Planning Advisory Committee Section 59 condition, which would limit rock breaking to the hours of 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. And finally, the proposed amendment has been evaluated by staff and the PAC. Included in your package is the recommendation to rezone the property subject to Section 59 conditions. I'll now turn it over to Yeva Matson, the planner on the file, for the staff presentation. Thank you.
Eva, over to you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Your Worship and Common Council. Before you today is a revised proposal for 421 Woodward Avenue for rezoning. The proposal is to rezone the site from low-rise residential to mid-rise residential for the development of 2 apartments. This would include all required parking, landscaping, and amenity space on site. The revised plan would see the southern building against Boar's Head Road being 6 stories in height, and the northern building facing Woodward only 4 stories. Here is a rendering of the project that can be found in your report, showing that 4 in the rear and the 6 stories in the front. The subject site is located at the Milledgeville area with frontage on both Boar's Head Road and Woodward Avenue. This area is characterized by a mixture of housing typologies from low-rise single-family and townhouses to the high-rise Brentwood Towers, as well as community uses such as the neighboring church, seniors' residences, and 2 schools within close proximity. The property itself has an area of approximately 16,000 square meters and would be accessed off of Boar's Head Road. A traffic study confirmed this to be the appropriate access point. And while there are no sidewalks on the northern side of Boar's Head Road, the traffic study also recommended a crosswalk to connect to the south side, and this is going to be one of the Section 59 conditions. In the above image, you can see the frontage along Boar's Head Avenue. The first larger image, this is where the access to the site would be, closer to that van. And as you can see, the site is currently undeveloped and treed with large amounts of rock. The site is designated as stable residential in the municipal plan. The most relevant municipal plan policy for this proposal is LU 86, which outlines housing of almost every form and density may be found, and both the existing neighborhood context and compatibility with the plan will determine suitability of new proposals. This apartment buildings meets the intent of LU 86 by respecting surrounding density and demonstrating consistency with the municipal plan's broader goals related to housing choice, urban form, and community livability. Other relevant policy includes LU 87, which intends that areas designated stable residential will evolve over time from a built form perspective and land use perspective, while reinforcing the community character and making positive contributions. The design and scale of the apartment buildings does complement the existing neighborhood scale, which contains high-rises and other mid-rise building forms, and this would make a positive contribution to the neighborhood by providing another housing typology and housing choice. With the revised plan to make the northern building only 4 stories in height, this does help create a transition from the low-rise typology to the mid-rise. The site is zoned low-rise residential, and this is intended to accommodate a range of ground-orientated, lower-density residential housing in the form of 1-unit, semi-detached, duplexes, townhouses, stacked townhouses, and small-scale apartments. The proposed zoning is mid-rise residential, and it's intended to accommodate a range of mid-rise and medium density in the form of townhouses, multiple unit dwellings, apartments, condominiums, etc., all with a maximum height of 6 stories. There are also some newer requirements for landscaping between the mid-rise developments and low-rise adjacent properties that help create buffers. Letters were mailed out to property owners within 100 meters of the subject site on October 25th. There is now 36 letters have been received, 1 in support and 35 in opposition. The applicant themselves did engage in some community engagement. They went door to door to the neighborhood and sent out letters. They've also had a series of one-on-one meetings at their office and provided their direct contact to anyone with questions. The public notice was posted on the city's website on November 6, 2025, and the PAC date was held on November 18th. PAC aligned largely with staff recommendation to rezone the property from RL to RM and impose 3 Section 59 conditions regarding the height, a fire hydrant, and a crosswalk. They did make an additional Section 59 condition to limit rock breaking on site from between 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. with the comment that council could further discuss this. As the proposal does align with all relevant policies, staff are recommending council rezone the property and adopt those 3 Section 59 conditions. Staff are not in alignment with PAC on the 4th condition involving rock breaking, as reflected in our supplementary report, as we consider it unnecessary and overtly restrictive. But we are happy to answer any questions. The applicant is also in the crowd today to answer any questions, introduce the concept, and speak on a shadow study. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so I will open the public hearing, and I will, no? Can't ask a question. I think we usually do the questions for process of staff at the end. Yeah. Okay. So I will, I'm going to ask if there's I'll open the public hearing, and I'll ask if there's anyone here who, oh yeah. I do actually have a list of 5 people, but I'll ask if there's anyone who would like to speak against the proposal for the zoning bylaw amendments with Section 59 conditions with PAC report for 421 Woodward Avenue. So I can call the list down, or if people just want to come down. I have 5 people listed to speak, or you can just come down. Just come down? All right, you're going to come down and give us your name and your, Ava, go ahead there. Come down and you can give us your name and your address.
Your Worship, councilors. My name is Danny Kay. I live at 417 Woodward Avenue, and I am directly impacted by the proposed development of 2 multi-unit buildings. At the narrowest point, the foundation of proposed building B is expected to be 9.5 meters from my property line, according to the site plan submitted by the applicant. I am here tonight to speak against the application. So recently, we received a letter from the planning department advising the PAC has received the application which seeks to rezone the property located at 421 Woodward Avenue from low-rise residential to mid-rise residential to allow for the development of 2 multi-unit buildings. So the November 13th staff report to PAC makes reference to a stable residential density target with regard to the neighborhood surrounding the 421 Woodward site. I was surprised to learn there are more than 500 existing apartments/condos within the perimeter of Millage Avenue, Woodward Avenue, and Boar's Head Road. That takes into account the Charlie Grace Apartments, the Killam Apartment Complex, Seabird Residence, Evergreen Suites, the new NB Housing Development, the new Cambridge Estates, and of course the Brentwood Tower. I would suggest 500+ units meets or exceeds the definition of medium to high density for this neighborhood. Another major development of 2 multi-unit apartment buildings with a capacity of 166 units is simply not necessary. When I look at the sheer scale of the proposed development, as you can see on the screen, as illustrated by the applicant's presentation to the PAC, it just doesn't feel right or look right. The development footprint is just too large and does not complement the character of the neighborhood, in my opinion. As you are aware, a proposal with the same application number was received by the PAC in May of 2025 for the purpose of rezoning 421 Woodward Avenue from low-rise residential to mid-rise residential to allow for the construction of 2 multi-unit buildings on the same site. That application was defeated by a vote of council at the June 2nd meeting. Following the June 2nd outcome, the developer has revisited the same application to rezone and proposed several changes to the building size, profile, and other infrastructure details to accommodate council's wishes and resident concerns expressed during the public hearing portion of the June 2nd meeting. With respect, Your Worship, This application is requesting approval to rezone the parcel of land at 421 Woodward Avenue from low-rise residential to mid-rise residential to allow for the development of 2 multi-unit buildings. Stop. That's it. That's what the application is requesting. All the focus on the details about the types of buildings, changes to design, building height, and other infrastructure criteria is merely an explanation of why the developer seeks approval to rezone and demonstrate compliance with the appropriate zoning bylaw standards, in this case, mid-rise residential if approved. The proposed amendment tonight is virtually the same as the zoning bylaw amendment brought forward at the June 2nd council meeting. And it's simply whether to approve rezoning of the property located at 421 Woodward Avenue from low-rise residential to mid-rise residential. In closing, Your Worship, after just 6 months, we have the same application, number 25-0028, to rezone, combined with a zoning bylaw amendment having the same wording and intent that was defeated by a vote of council at the June 2nd meeting. One might ask how this application to rezone could be considered for approval based on the previous vote. Thank you for allowing me to share my thoughts.
Thank you for being here this evening, Mr. Kay. I don't see any questions for you, so thank you. Okay, I'll ask for the next person to come down. Who would like to speak against 421 Woodward Avenue? I'll get you to give me your name and your address.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of Council. I'm Farzana Sumi. I'm from 432 Woodward Avenue. I'm here in the formal opposition to the proposed development, speaking as a representative voice for the residents who will be affected seriously. Tonight, I want to briefly highlight 3 key points. Number 1, community petition, questions about the developer's community engagement, impact of construction timeline on community. The first point is the community petition. The community petition shows evidence of strong neighborhood opposition. 100+ local residents signed a petition opposing the proposed rezoning at 421 Woodward. I have the original copy. You can share to everyone to see. Sorry for my mobility, I asked her help. So the original petition has been shown to Council. To protect our residents' privacy, a copy of submitted with the blurred contact details. Council members, these signatures come from across our streets and all age groups, clearly reflecting the community's genuine widespread concern. Despite our clear local opposition, this project is moving forward based almost entirely on technical reports, not the voice of our community. Council members, secondly, we have questions about the developer's community engagement. In the PSC meeting, again the developer claimed they went door to door. Can we ask, what does door-to-door engagement truly mean to the developer? How many residents they claim to have spoken with, and among them, how many agreed with the proposal? Can the developer provide a clear and verifiable list to the Common Council? Asking these questions, as we found very minimal evidence of such action, we believe this information is essential for accurate decision-making for the Council and for evaluating whether the developer's public engagement claims are factual and reliable. My third concern is impact of construction timeline on community. Honorable Council members, before the PSC meeting, the city received 35 letters from residents outlining serious concerns, hardships, and challenges related to this proposed development. Some of them are here tonight, I believe. May I request audience to raise their hand if they are opposing the project? Please raise your hand who are opposing for the project. Thank you so much. Among those letters before PSC meeting, I would like to share a few lines from one of the most significant submission, a letter from the CEO of Kennebec Manor, a long-term care home serving 70 seniors. Quote, Kennebec Manor is located at 475 Woodward Avenue and is home to 70 people. Until recently, our home was stipulated in a beautiful part of Milledgeville with many trees and wildlife on one side of our property. The current construction site removed all those trees and involved breaking rock with machinery starting at 7:30 a.m. every day. This rock breaking sounded like drilling or machine gun fire. It was incredibly loud. Hearing how loud it was inside our home was unimaginable. Starting this early in the day woke many residents before their usual waking time. The constant noise throughout the day also prevented them from having a restful afternoon nap. We received many complaints from residents, and it is very hard to explain this disruption to those who have a diagnosis of dementia. Lack of sleep affects our residents greatly. We saw poor appetites, increased behaviors, drowsiness, and some residents not participating in social activities because they were simply too tired. We have one resident, Heather, who lived through the war. She has dementia, and she relived the war every day, believing she was being bombed. It was heartbreaking to see and hear her fear. There was no reassuring her because this was her reality. There was no area in our home where you could not hear the noise and hammering. She could not escape it. This is only one example of the people who were affected. To think we could experience more of the some construction and noise is very unsettling for our home and our residents, not to mention the impact it has had on the staff who had listened to it for 8+ hours a day while trying to work in already challenging conditions. Unquote. Honorable councillors, in the PSC meeting, the developer stated clearly that construction timeline for this proposal is at least 3 years, and that includes months of rock breaking. A 3-year construction period may appear ordinary from a planning or development perspective, but for many of the residents living at Kennebec Manor, 3 years is the rest of their life. Tonight, I respectfully ask you to consider not just policies, zoning categories, or engineering reports, but the lived reality of the most vulnerable people in our community. Seniors with dementia, frailty, and medical complexities cannot endure another multi-year period of rock breaking, hammering, drilling, vibration, and constant noise mere steps from their home. My question to the decision makers: at what cost are we proceeding with this project, given the potential impact on the lives and characters of the surrounding neighborhood? What we are trying to achieve here? Honorable Council Member, I would like to thank you for listening and giving me the opportunity to represent our voice of the community. Tonight, you have a big decision to make. Thank you all.
Thank you very much for being here this evening as well. Okay, I'll ask the next speaker to come down.
Good evening, Your Worship.
Good evening.
Town Council. My name is Lisa Parley. I reside at 310 Woodward Avenue. I just recently moved and sold my home on Kennebecasis Drive, just down from the ferry. I'm here tonight to stand with the other residents of Milledgeville who are against this proposed build. I do have some concerns and some questions for the builder. First and foremost, my understanding is that this is to be an affordable housing or for some people. I would like to know what percentage of the units will be considered affordable housing. I'd also like to consider what the cost is per month for these residents who will be considered affordable housing. I also have concerns with what I heard, which was that these units will be one-bedroom units. So to the developer, I have questions on if there is a cap on the number of people who can reside in this unit. As a resident of Milledgeville, I do know that there are some families who will have more than 1 or 2 people residing in a small unit. So my concern is that there will be over 300 plus people residing in these units. My other concern is transit. I gave up one of my vehicles last year and have been taking the city transit for the past year now. In this proposed area, these residents do have to take the Flex bus. It's not the regular city transit. Unfortunately, in my past year of taking the Flex bus, I've encountered a number of difficulties. It's not a reliable source of transportation. Most of the time, I am late for work. I'm not sure if these individuals residing or who will reside on Woodward Avenue realize that the Flex bus only runs Monday through Saturday until 6 p.m. After that time, there will be no transit available for these individuals. So they will have to walk from the fire station up at Millage Avenue and University Avenue all the way down, which is probably, I would say, almost 5 kilometers. So if they're elderly or disabled, or they would have to have a means of getting down there or find a safe space. With regards to Woodward Avenue itself, I work at the Bell Center on Woodward Avenue. There's a 4-way stop there. I've actually resided in Milledgeville my entire life. My parents bought a home there when I was 4. They currently reside there. They live across from the they live off of University Avenue across from the hospital. And it's dark. At times it's very dark. There's not a lot of lighting. I walk back and forth from that place of work and down that way. So I would probably consider more lighting, more crosswalks at that particular stop sign. And I'm sure you've spoken with our police force. They actually sit in my parking lot and watch drivers drive by and through the intersection without stopping at that 4-way stop all of the time. There actually is a bus stop where children get off at that bus location, and we continue to see people continue to drive through the stop sign. So I would strongly consider a crossing walk or some sort of stopping system there so that we could safely go across the street. My other concern would be all of the residents that live in Milledgeville currently who pay high property tax. I believe that our opinions matter. We don't want to see the value of our property decreasing because of the progress that's been going on within Milledgeville. And I did hear that at the last meeting, there was, I guess, some people who were upset that we were trying to stop the progress of the development. However, I have gone through all of the developments in Milledgeville in the past 20 plus years, I would say 22 years. And as mentioned, there's probably over 500 apartment, there's even more. I mean, you could go all the way down University Avenue. There's apartment complexes up and down on both sides. We've had 4 new apartment complexes go up on Knoll. I believe each one of those having about 50 to 60 units. There's the 2 buildings that were proposed to go up by the Tipsy Tomato, and we're now losing all of that. So we'll be losing the Tipsy Tomato that's already gone, the travel agency, the massage clinic, the seamstress that was there, the martial arts studio was there for some of our children. We're losing all of that. The fire department is now closed. So I would strongly consider the security and safety of the residents of Milledgeville in that area. You have a hospital, you have a university, you have 3 schools, you have 4 seniors' homes, You have the St. Stephen, you have the Shanex, you have the Kennebec Manor, you have Le Chateau, and now we have no fire department. And we have multiple units going up all over Milledgeville, and I feel that strongly we could use the fire department if we're going to continue to build at this rate. My other understanding is that the fire department has been sold, and there is a planned build for another apartment complex there as well, which I find unsafe. And just as a mother, I have a 10-year-old son who walks to school in Milledgeville North, and there is no crossing guards. He has to walk to and from. Where this planned build will be in the school zone. So I do have major concerns of all of the students that walk back and forth without crossing guards or proper crossing places. So those are my concerns, and I hope that you take them into consideration. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lisa, for being here this evening. I don't see any questions for you, so I'll ask the next person who would, oh, there is a question. Oh, sorry, Councillor Radwan.
Yeah, it's more procedural. We got a petition, and Councillor Killen's online. I don't know. She wants to see it's 107 names and mostly addresses in Milledgeville, but there's some even in Milford and Uptown.
Okay, thank you. So I'll ask for the next person who would like to speak against the development at 421 Woodward. I'll get you to come down and give us your name and your address, please.
Good evening, Worship and Council members. My name is Safayat Hassan, and with me is my friend Gabriel Cheng, who lives 401 Woodward Avenue. We are here tonight on behalf of our concerned residents who oppose the rezoning application of 421 Avenue. And thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to speak. The developer has presented a revised plan highlighting 4-story building on the north side, 6-story building on the both side, and we acknowledge the effort. However, the fundamental issues that led to the community's previous objections, issues related to public safety, health, and overall quality of life, that was unresolved. I want to show you this picture. This one is the picture in the morning. Our kids are going to the school, and you see the number of our kids they're going to the school. So, first concern is the traffic safety. We have 2 nearby schools, and as you can see, there are good numbers of students. They're walking on the sidewalks. Adding this level of density and traffic to an area already filled up with the children creates a safety risk, and that we cannot accept. Especially in the winter, our narrow sidewalks becomes even tighter due to snowbanks, forcing pedestrians and the children to walk dangerously close to the roadways, and that more traffic will simply create this another type of mess. So we asked to weigh the developer's preference for higher density against the safety of our children. Then there is issues of sunlight. The developer presented shadow study that suggests minimal to no impact. However, when we calculated that data provided by the developer, we have the calculation sheet here that we can give it to everyone. It's clear that the sunlight will be blocked both 10 a.m. and 3 p.m. in December. The building B completely blocks direct sunlight vertically and horizontally during November, December, and January. The sunlight reality is completely different from the shadow study provided by the developer. We have included the calculation in the documents we just shared with you. All the numbers came directly from the developer's own blueprint, except the building height. So the true height of the building, it should consider 4-story, the elevation difference, and the portion of the underground parking that sits above the ground. So that should be counted as well. If the developer uses only 4-story height in the shadow study, it becomes misleading and doesn't reflect the actual impact. With all of these factors combined, the sun never rises high enough to clear the roof line. Even in the noon, the sun stays at the bottom of the building B, at the top of the building B. In the December, there were no day when direct sunlight reaches the neighborhood homes, especially in the. So the developer shadow study also uses common optical trick, I should say, then showing shadows at 10 a.m. and 3 p.m. instead of noon. However, but because the building's true height and width, even with these calculations, the sunlight will still fully blocked at those times. This brings to our next key issues, which is information inconsistencies. First, the height. The developer calls this a 4-story building, but because of the steep grade and the underground parking that sits above the ground, the actual height is equivalent to 17.5 meter, which is, I think, 5.5-story building. And that kind of wall towering over single family house, just adjacent to that, based on the developer's own profile drawing, and the building on the Boar's Head Road side reaches a true height similar to an 8-story structure. This simply doesn't fit in our community. So we also disagree with using the Brentwood Tower as a comparison. One exception doesn't set the rule. Brentwood was approved under completely different planning conditions. Its existence doesn't prove the development compatible. If anything, it highlights only how incompatible it would be to add another building of that kind of a scale. Conflicting information. At the last council meeting, the developer stated that on record, we are 45 meters from the closest building. However, their own blueprint shows it's 36.33 meters. So that suggests their claim was like generous space, but the actual document reveals a much tighter squeeze.
Actually 45 meters from the closest building. We're 15 meters from the property line.
So that was the 45 meter, but actually, there again, their blueprint is showing 36.33.
We're actually 45 meters from the closest building. We're 15 meters from the property line.
Is that on the screen?
All right, so this is the developer showed a video in the PSC meeting, and that looked really reassuring. But when we measured the reference trees in that video using LiDAR technology and NASA-based tool, the trees were only 10 and 13 meters. And the proposed building is 17.5 meters tall. So it is impossible for those trees to hide the building. The video downplays the visual impact and doesn't reflect reality. In other example, the developer showed a picture and the trees were like way high, about 22 meters. In the back of the picture, in the project pictures. So, and that is not also true because we measured that tree with the LiDAR technology and it is 10, and you can see like one is 10, one is 13, 13.56 meters. So this is far from accurate, creates a misleading impression of his screening and coverage. So that is not accurate.
Yeah, so we just attached all the calculation to those documents, so you probably can check.
You can check,
and
yeah.
verify.
All right, so this one, we also found a manipulated scale in the blueprint, the amenity area. So the amenity area marked in blue looks small in the drawing because it was drawn off scale. When we recalculated the amenity area to match the correct scale, the true size marked in red, you can see. And this is between the property line, the red line is property line and the building B. So that distance, it doesn't fit there. It is so large that it barely fits there. So this amenity area was like.
I was going to say, you've got about a minute and a half left to wrap up your presentation for us.
Okay, so, I mean, this calculation is not right as well. So we have incorrect tree heights, impossible shadow claims, manipulated videos, presentations, and drawing with conflict scales. These are like systematic inconsistencies, I should say. And
Yeah, so basically, so councilors, so we have incorrect tree heights, impossible shadow claims, manipulated video perspective, and also drawing with conflicting skills. So those are not isolated errors, they are systematically consistencies. So what's most troubling us in the pattern is that every single mistake favors developer. Every inconsistencies making the building appears shorter, further away, and least intrusive. So this forces us to ask, are those materials and presentations selectively emphasizing the advantage while quietly try to minimize the real impact on our community? So the major concern rises before remaining unresolved. And also the proposal rests on too many conflicting, incorrect, and manipulated claims. So this is not about blocking the development we stand here tonight. It's about the integrity of our civic process. So you are the guardians of our community and our only hope. We urge you to maintain your opposition, and we rely on you to reject the application based on the fact, but not on the carefully crafted illusions.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here this evening.
Thank you.
All right, I'll ask for the next person who would like to speak against the application for 421 Woodward Avenue to come down, please, and give us your name and your address.
Good evening, Your Worship and Member of Council. My name is Moin. I live in 382 Borshead Road. So I'm here today to oppose the rezoning from low-rise residential to mid-rise residential that would allow 1 6-story in Borshead side and 4-story in the Woodward side. I understand that City of St. John needs more housing, so my concern is how and where we add it. So tonight I'll briefly walk you through my key concern. So to start with, my first concern is my first concern is the height and scale of the proposal. So the area around Woodward and Borshead is clearly a low-rise neighborhood, mainly 1 to 3-story homes, and adding a 6-story tower plus a 4-story beside it would create a second mid-rise cluster that visually dominates this stable residential area. Under the Plan SJ policy LU 87, which was showcased earlier, stable residential areas are supposed to reinforce the predominant community character and make a positive contribution to the neighborhood. So this mid-rise complex does the total opposite side. It changes the character instead of reinforcing it. So in simple terms, this proposal is too tall, too dense, and too intense for this location, from my view. So on top of height, we still have no updated, like both side shadow study, which was shown earlier, like the previous one. So there was no updated shadow study was mentioned or shown in the last PSC meeting. So under this latest rezoning application, council is being asked to approve the 6-story building without clear evidence of how much shadow it will cast on the neighborhood, homes and years, and how it will protect the privacy. And especially in winter and when sunlight is already limited. So the requested RM zoning combined with 2 large buildings pushes the unit count to around 166 units, far beyond the pattern established by the existing homes and the community character. So that high unit count is what drives the extra heights and mass. A project that truly respected the surrounding context would have fewer units and envelope closer to what already exists on the street. In my view, this is not gentle intensification, it is a step change that overburdens the stable residential street. So my second concern is the mechanical rock breaking. So the site sits on the bedrock, and the proposal will require heavy mechanical rock breaking excavator with hydraulic breakers working for an extended period. Even without the blasting, repeated heavy impact on bedrock can transmit vibration through the ground and affect the nearby homes' foundation walls and structure, especially for older homes like many on Borsett and Woodward side. So once crack appear in a foundation or drywall, the burden is on the homeowner to prove it was caused by this rock breaking construction. So that is stressful, expensive, and often very hard to do after the fact. So we need some sort of prevention and documentation upfront so that there is no dispute later on. So as a precautionary measure, so my thought is before the project moves on, a proper impact analysis and pre and post survey must be conducted, and there should be a proper vibration monitoring with safe limits. Then the clear written damage repair process should be established before the project gets the approval. So I request the council to record this condition as if any project proceeds under Section 59 of the Community Planning Act, so that it is part of the project condition. So my last concern includes the infrastructure and safety related matter, which other also raised a similar concern. So a 166 unit complex will significantly increase both vehicle traffic and foot traffic on Woodward and Borsett side. Yet today, sections of this street still lack the side works in the north, especially north side of the Borsett road. Children walking to the playground, to the school bus stops, and adults going in to the transit often have to work on the road shoulder, and there is no crosswalk at present. So adding hundreds of daily car movements to the street with missing side work and the crosswalk is a safety risk we can see coming, especially there is a blind spot in the Borsett side road. There is also a shortage of playground and recreation space in this area. So adding this many new households will place even more pressure on the limited facilities that we have in terms of playground as well as the school. So if you intensify without upgrading infrastructure, we are simply shifting risk into the families, kids, and who walk this street and use these facilities every day, Moving to the next slide. So the key consideration would be for tonight's council meeting. So first, I would like to request the members to refuse the rezoning at its current forms and current proposal. Secondly, if any form of project moves forward, to require a strong home protection measure, pre and post survey impact analysis, vibration monitoring, and firm damage repair commitments. Third, to treat the sidewalk and crosswalk are essential safety infrastructure, not optional extras, especially on a route used by the children and transit riders. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for being here this evening. I'll take the next speaker who would like to speak against the proposal at 421 Woodward Avenue. I'll ask a second time if there's anyone left who would like to speak against the proposal at 421 Woodward Avenue. I'll ask for the third time if there's anyone who would like to speak against the proposal at 421 Woodward Avenue. Okay, I'll ask if there's anyone here this evening who would like to speak in favor of the proposal at 421 Woodward. Come down and give us your name and your relationship to the project.
Good evening, Your Worship, members of council. My name is Isaiah Reed from Don Moore Surveys and Engineering. This evening, we're here on the revised proposal for the 421 Woodward Avenue development. First thing I do want to go through here is the substantial change that was made to allow this to come back to council, and hearing what was said last time that this was brought forth, of seeing what we could do to work with lowering the building height, possibly working with the site to stretch the building. We've been able to transform Building B from a 6-story to a 4-story building. In doing so, the unit count has changed from the original unit count to 166 proposed units. One of the residents that was here and spoke this evening did have some questions about the mix of the units. On the screen here, we can see that we have 97 proposed 1-bedrooms, 53 proposed 2-bedrooms, and 16 proposed 3-bedrooms across, obviously, and that is both buildings put together. There is one other topic that I want to mention while we were on here. Somebody had played a voice from last PAC's meeting saying that about the distance of the building from the property line and how we were reporting on something that was incorrectly. But to clarify, the last proposal was a 6-story building, so Building B was shorter, and thus it wasn't as close to Danny's property or the building that is closest to on the corner. That's where the discrepancy comes from on that recording that was played versus what you see on the site plan, just for a bit of clarification. One of the biggest things that we've heard, and again, I'll get into community engagement later on in my presentation, but was the breaking of rocks and the neighbors and everything that is put forth here. You know, we have something that we're gonna, again, I'll get to it when we talk about the engagement and at the end here, but right here, what we've put together is what we call a takeoff of this property. It has fills, it has takeoffs for this property. The cut out of here is in red, the fill is in green. So you can see that our total cut volume out of this site is 2,011 cubic meters. For reference, the housing project that was done just adjacent to our property, we actually spoke to the people that were in that development and did that. We did some preliminary data ourselves versus from what we had on LiDAR from 2018, which was pre-conditions, and then now. And we got roughly, without being able to include any infrastructure that was put in or basements, foundations, things like that to the buildings, because obviously we didn't have that data. But our number was around 6,000 cubic meters. When we actually spoke to them, they said it was upwards of 7,000 cubic meters that they pulled out from the adjacent property next to ours. That lasted about 8 months. And again, for reference, so we're less than a third of what that is at that site versus ours. You know, the developer and us have really worked with the site to try to figure out how we could build up and put the buildings blended in here rather than level it from Woodward Avenue to Boar's Head Road. So that's where I want to get into with the cross section that we show here. And I don't know if you can see, yeah, you can see my mouse here. So along here is the existing ground condition that is from Woodward Avenue to Boar's Head Road. When I go here, we'll be able to see Building A. This is the proposed 6-story building that is coming in here. These are real heights. These are the real height of the building, the actual rock that is in the front of Boar's Head Road as well. You can see where we're going to cut it out from Boar's Head Road. That first story is essentially below the rock. And when you go back to the cut fill, so from Boar's Head Road, with a mixture of the trees that we plan to leave as the buffer, and we've discussed that multiple times, you'll have 5 stories that will be above from Boar's Head roadside. When we go over to Building B, this building does have underground parking. But when we were referencing heights of these buildings, so on and so forth, and I do want to play that video for you guys again here this evening and get into that a little bit further, but when I go back to, if we look at the existing ground condition that is down here, we're actually going to build up to hide the entire parking garage, having our existing condition from here be 4 stories up. Everything under that will be covered. This minimizes rock breaking for the residents. This minimizes the impact that that has on the building and able to, accommodate the low visual when we were able to stretch the building from 6 to 4. Shadow studies have been done for both Boar's Head Road, as you can see, and Woodward Avenue on this, and I believe this mail out was sent to everyone as well already. The shadow study on here, this one is December 22nd with the buildings, so you can see the impact that it has, and without the buildings. I can point out there is small gaps in areas, should I go back, that get filled in when you do remove the buildings. You can see the visual impact that it has, and, in full spirit of transparency. This is at 10 a.m. without buildings. This is June 22nd at 2 p.m. at 10 a.m. September 21st with buildings. September 10 a.m. with buildings. The impacts of the shadow study. And I believe all that has been sent around. I have some other colleagues here this evening that will speak to the shadow study a little bit further as well. This video that I want to play for us here this evening, if I can get this open. I'm gonna play back speed in half. Now, before I play the video, I do want to clarify what was done in this video. So this video is a mixture of LiDAR data from a drone that was shot above the entire site, captures the site, as well as what we call a SLAM scanner. So we walked Woodward Avenue, but would take another LiDAR machine and get accurate one-to-one data. This thing takes billions of data points to put together this video and image that we can all see today. Everything that you can see in here is factual. If you go drive down there, these are still some of the cars that are parked there. These are some of the trees that are broken over in these people's yards. These are the trees that are left standing. This is exactly what you see when you go down there. The video will go through twice. The first time we go through the video is that the average human height, where you hold your head when you walk normal, is at an 8-degree angle. So you're walking on the street, you're just looking ahead, you're walking, that's what you see. The second playback through, we're gonna see at a 25-degree angle. So exaggerated to see what you would see if you're looking up at the buildings. So I'll go ahead and I'll play this through. This one's at 8 degrees. This one is at 25. So that is what you get if you're going down Woodward Avenue. We'll be able to answer more questions on that later as well, I'm sure. We did have some questions when I was doing engagement with some of the residents and I'm sure some of the staff. Now this is an old servicing plan, however the servicing doesn't change. We're still connecting to Boar's Head Road. We had questions whether or not that we would be accessing any services out to Woodward Avenue, but that is not the case. Everything is going out to Boar's Head Road. Additionally, if I go all the way back to my cut and fill volumes, you'll be able to, I'll go back. You'll be able to see that the entire area that we actually have to get out for servicing, this allows us to fill in that area rather than break additional depth to put in our infrastructure, avoiding more rock breaking for the area. I believe Yave and the staff did a great job on this already, but I do just want to point out a couple of the existing zones and that are in the area that we feel that this is a good place for this RM zone. We have major community facilities, which is the CFN zone. And then we have RM in the surrounding areas, all over us. And then we also have the high rise. Everybody has been talking about the Brentwood Towers.
Mr. Reed, you've answered a lot of good questions for us tonight, but I wanted to save a little bit of your time for questions from the table here, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Because I'm getting to your 10-minute limit here.
Yeah, the last thing I do want to speak is that I will say that I have spoken with every single person that's got up here tonight, minus one person. Not perfect, I can't get to everybody, but my contact has been out there. I've spent hours in my office. I went out, we've done the best that we could to speak with these residents, and we've remained an open channel, so.
Okay, so does anyone have any questions for Mr. Reed? Just want to make sure. Councillor Radwan, over to you.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you to Mr. Reed. Yeah, so one of the residents did have a question about a percentage of affordable units and what the cost would be. So I'd love for you to answer that for them. I just wanted to, it doesn't look like you're propping up either of the buildings, but a recent development in the city, the building was really propped up. There's nothing like that happening with this property, I'm assuming. It doesn't look like
I guess
it.
clarify what you mean by propped
What is
up.
that?
So, yeah, like they elevated the land up and then put four
Yeah,
stories,
no,
so it
we're trying to
almost
work
looks like
with
an
it,
extra
yes.
story.
Yeah, we're trying to work with it, we'll go to the existing ground, cut what we need to cut, and then place the building. As for CMHC, or what you're talking about in
Yeah.
affordable housing, Emmett might be able to speak to what their plans are further, which is the developer who's here this evening, but I can clarify that working with CMHC, you have to meet a certain percentage of the total units. I believe that number is 25%, and then of that, that's calculated by 30% of the median income for the area. That's how the rent wage is determined, I believe, but again, Emmett might be able to speak to that.
And I think the amount is somewhere between like $1,200 and $1,500 a month or something like that. I can't remember exactly. Brent probably knows, but the only other question that I have is there's a question about maybe having Section 59 condition to restrict the blasting times.
So-
Can you tell me what kind of an impact that might have for the development?
So two things, I kind of didn't get there yet, but we have, from the PAC meeting, spoke to additional residents. When speaking to them, we asked them, one of your biggest concerns was you didn't want the rock breaking. You didn't want the rock breaking, it was long. It was 8 months at the housing project. We don't want to go through that again. So we figured out how we could shorten that, work with it, so on and so forth. And I asked every one of them, and they pretty much all said that they would rather have it shorter time, as in we start and stop around dinner time, and then that stretch longer, rather than us go maximum city hours and get it done shorter. So with that, we met with our civil people talking about the site, and we don't have a problem with that. Should that condition be proposed, we would suggest that, or ask to consider 7 a.m. till 5 instead of 8 till 6, or the recommendation that was had, as most people just start working in that industry at 7, and by 5 you can come home for dinner. Should that be a thing, we were totally amendable to that.
You don't think you'd have an issue with somebody taking the job?
Pardon?
You
No.
don't think, no?
Nope.
Okay, that's
Nope.
good to know.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, Deputy, over to you next.
Yeah, we sort of touched on it, Mr. Reed, but my concern is the number of days or time for rock breaking. If you can blast what you need to in 2 or 3 days and be done with it and do it safely, I think people are more apt to take that than 7 months of constant rock breaking. So do you
We're
have
substantially.
options here?
Yeah, well, I'll let Andrew speak to the blasting, who's here this evening, who can give us a little bit more depth on that. But the cost implications for blasting is substantially more for a site like that, as well as it does have greater risks for the residents, which is some of their concerns. So, and again, with the site next to us with the housing project, they were 8 months to break over 7,000 cubic meters, whereas we're only taking out 2,000 cubic meters. Our hope is that it's 2 to 3 months should we follow the same schedule, the same equipment, if I'm just comparing apple to apple of what they did, what ours is. So we're hoping to condense that by quite a bit.
But can you use more than one machine and condense it even more?
You could, yeah,
Yeah?
yeah,
Be nice.
yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Reed, that looks like that's all the questions for you. Thanks for being here this evening. I'll take the next speaker who'd like to speak in favor of the 421 Woodward. Get you to give us your name and your relationship to the project.
Andrew Toole, also with DMSE. Sorry, so I'm just here to answer a few questions. So you asked about braking versus blasting. So we have purposely designed this site with braking in mind. If we were blasting, we would set everything down further. It's very hard to blast a really shallow cut across the site. Like you're blasting, you need a depth to get the energy into the rock. So we have a very shallow cut in a bunch of areas that it's much more efficient just to break it. If we were blasting, we would lower the whole site and take a significant cut across it. Our other challenge is that because we have a lot of houses close by, we don't want to, we have to load the charges so low and do so much matting that it significantly drives up the cost.
Wait a minute, he's got to get the mic on. There you
Yeah.
go.
The only reason I was asking, I know nothing about breaking rock or blasting. All I know is that I'd like to see it done as quickly as possible. Okay, I know you gotta break rock, that's what Milledgeville is, rock, but it's like I said to Mr. Reed, like if one guy uses one machine and causes disruption for 7 months, maybe you could use 2 and do it in a month, to minimize for the neighbors. That's all I'm looking for.
And like what drove, the conversation with the civil contractor about could we, like what hours work was the conversation of how fast can we get this done. And so to put that in context, what he kind of talked about was he could put one operator with 2 machines. They would break during the key times, and then at the end of the day, they just move broken rock for the rest of their shift, go home, come in the next morning, get ready, hammer during the important part, move broken rock the rest of the time.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other questions for Mr. Toole? All right, thank you. I'll take the next speaker who'd like to speak in favor of 421 Woodward.
Good evening, Your Worship, Council, staff, and our neighbors. Thanks for giving us the, this is Amit Mandirata. I am the developer. I'm also an architect. So far, we've done the design of this project. Thanks for giving us the opportunity to come back and address all the concerns raised by the council, by the neighbors. I don't take it as personal. I don't take it as, it's very constructive. It's what keeps us grounded, questions, challenges. And we were given the task in June to go back to the drawing board, relook at if we can, address the concerns and still keep the project. Because, we just don't have to do it on paper, we have to actually build it. So we've gone back, we've reduced the height. The staff has really, advised us. Don Moore's done a great job in, reaching out. And I've been talking to Isaiah like almost every second day on the community engagement. He's been messaging me. They are talking about this. They're talking about a fence. Like we're very happy to work with the neighbors. Ultimately we're all neighbors. We'll all be neighbors, and so we have to work. We are all working together. Just few points which have been raised here. Access to Woodward side. We are. If you look at the site plan, we have a like a small lot which is zoned as the similar zoning. So we're not having access to the Woodward side. All the access is to Boar's Head side. So that should help with the whole thing. There was some talk about affordability. How much percentage? We are working with CMHC. Their rules do keep changing. They just changed like a couple of months back. I think I could be wrong, it's 10% right now, 10% affordable. It used to be 15, but they have a scale. So if you want to get number of points, so if you do more affordable, less energy efficient, that's how they do it. we are, I mean, ultimately, all of them have a similar cost to a developer. So we're working with them, but right now, till we have a rezoning, we really cannot put an official application to really discuss with them. So I think that will get concretized. There were some points about accuracy. Unfortunately, I'm not only a developer, I'm an architect. I have a professional liability, legal liability. I mean, we're all professionals here. There's not going to be any fudging. There can be mistakes which we can recur. We're going to work with the staff anyways on all the accuracy. And we cannot really misrepresent things here. So that was something I wanted to comment. I'm happy to answer any questions here.
Any questions for our developers here? Councillor Harris, over to you.
Thanks for coming back. It's pretty rare, actually, that we send somebody away with some, a divided community in this case, then some contrary, takes around the table about the development. It was a close call that night, but we don't often see you come back, see folks who have been turned down come back with those revisions. So it is a big deal. So thanks for doing it, putting in the work.
Any other questions? Councillor Redmond, over to you for a question.
I'm just curious, like, have you seen this document?
I have
Or-
not, because
Okay.
the shadow study is done done by me, it's done by a software. It's the same software we do to make the 3D
Okay.
design. We just have to put the time and it just comes out. I don't need
Oh,
to
wow.
really, I cannot change it.
Technology's
And,
neat.
it can be checked by any of the technical staff here or anybody. I mean, it's not me. I can send the software to them. I mean, it can be double checked. I've not seen that.
Yeah.
But
Okay,
But
perfect.
we have a standard way of doing things. I mean, across the industry, it's done with the software. That's how we do it.
And I just want to quickly say, like, whichever way this goes, I appreciate that you've tried to make some changes, the trees being around, all of those sort of things, the different building height for the 6-story to 4-story. Like, I appreciate trying to make those changes to try to help mitigate concerns.
Thank you.
I've got a quick question. What would be the approximate cost of the build?
We think each building should be about 18 to 19 million, each of those.
Okay, so we're looking at a $40 million build at the end of the day going forward. Okay. The other thing I'll say is that we're doing heat mapping right now in reference to the shadows there, and there's a new book code I just heard on the CBC called "The Case for Shade," and as the world heats up, it's shade that we're going to need going forward. So it's just interesting to see as the world changes of what we will prioritize as we go forward. So I guess a bit of shade is actually not too bad for a neighborhood. I want to thank you as well for being here, because it is, like Councillor Harris said, it's not always, someone doesn't always come back to try to make those accommodations and present and make another presentation. So I do appreciate you being here tonight as well.
You're welcome.
All right. That's it then. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'll ask again if there's anyone else who would like to speak in favor. I'll get you to come down and give us your relationship to the project.
Thank you, Your Worship. Council, excuse me. My name is Jody Clifford. I'm the Real Estate and Development Manager for Envision St. John. And look, I just wanted to make this quick. It's a great project. It looks great. It's on a vacant piece of land with services right at the doorstep in a stable neighborhood near schools, hospital, transit, so forth. This is a great opportunity for the city. We're still in a housing crisis. We still need that growth. Our growth of the city has come down a bit in 2025 versus the last 3 or 4 years, but it's still positive in the context of the country. That's actually quite good. And we look to the future knowing we're going to get back to pretty aggressive growth rates before too long. And I'll add that we've had a lot of interest in the industrial and employment sector from international companies poking around, kicking tires, and possibly moving to the city. One of the things they ask us at Envision is like, what's the housing situation in St. John? If we're going to move a company there, do you have the units? What's your pipeline? So it's important to keep our foot on the gas pedal to move forward with growth, especially in the context of stable residential neighborhoods where growth is most appropriate. As I've said to council before in past applications, as we grow as a city, it means all of our component neighborhoods are going to grow. And there's growing pains that come with that. We have to accept those and move on. Otherwise, we'll do what we did in the past, which is grow out instead of grow up. And we know the expenses and complications with that. So it's great. I look forward to council's vote, and thank you very much.
It sounds like this piece of property's been, well, it's obviously been vacant for a while, but I think it's had a couple of tries at development in the kit, from going back to the 80s maybe, has
There's
it?
been there's a few, yes, it has, and other lots in that same area. And the challenge with the rock is not insignificant. It's been
Right.
the cost of land and real estate in the past has always prohibited these types of sites from going forward. So now we're finally at that economic place in our market where it can sustain development. So I am kind of cringing, going, well, let's not put too many conditions on it because it's still pretty questionable if something can pencil when there's a lot of conditions on it, but the developer seems pretty amenable to what's been proposed today, so that's great.
All right, thank you for being here. Oh, Councilor Redbon has a question for you.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Through you to Mr. Clifford, just wondering, you're looking at a lot of projects. Is there any evidence that you guys are getting at Envision, because there were some concerns and letters that property value would go down with an apartment being built?
As a result of development?
Yeah.
No, there's nothing that's come across my desk in Envision. I can say more broadly, my background being an urban planner, I'm not aware of any planning study that has indicated that growth in a neighborhood has resulted in lower value of homes. In fact, most evidence points to the exact opposite in the Canadian context.
I thought so. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I'll ask again if there's anyone here who would like to speak in favor of the project of 421 Woodward.
Your worship, I just have a quick clarifying question.
Anyone else who'd like to speak in favor of the project of 421 Woodward? And for the final time, anyone who would like to speak in favor of the project of 421 Woodward? All right, I shall close the public hearing, and I'll ask my team if you have any questions for staff. Councillor, or Deputy, over to you for your question to staff. Put on John's.
Thank you, Worship. I guess this would be to Commissioner Hugenholtz. We're talking about an area that's growing quite widely in the city, and we have done a lot of, sidewalk improvements, crosswalks. I noticed that there was one there at San Davis Drive. Is there more opportunities coming in 2026 for sidewalks? It was mentioned that there was a couple of sidewalks on Boris Head Road, or I know we just finished one, 300 meters last year. Is there more coming in that direction?
Through you, Your Worship, to the Deputy Mayor, we do have a sidewalk infill strategy that exists for the entire city. I'm not sure exactly, I don't have that in front of me, but if there are missing sidewalk sections in around this area that we're talking about, they would be captured within that. It's been listed in order of priority as well for us to focus on and implement through our capital budgets. I would say that any additional development in that area does help push that up a little bit more on the priority list.
Yeah, that's how we got the one on Boris Head Road. Okay. The other one I want to say, there was 35 letters received. How many letters went out?
Through your worship to the deputy mayor, about approximately, I don't have the number in front of me, but approximately about 85 letters went out.
85?
And about 25 of those direct respondents responded. So other letters are from other areas of the city as well.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Councillor Radwan, question?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, through you, I think to probably General Counsel. I have a procedural question, it's bothering me. So we've had a couple of documents handed to us. Councillor Killen's online, she's not seeing this, or the petition. It wasn't given in advance. Are we supposed to take those things into consideration at all?
Maybe I'll chime in on that.
Sure.
On that point, it's actually fine at this point in time, but it's something we're looking at for the procedural bylaw update in 2026.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Counselor Killen, I want to make sure I capture you as well.
No, I just had a question for.
You're muted right now. Or wait now. I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now? My mic's
Oh, it won't go up, the volume? Oh, type me a question.
Hello, hello? It's fine.
Okay. All right. Counselor Stewart, over to you then.
Thank you, Your Worship. So I have a comment for staff regarding transit, because that was brought up. So definitely, there's been enough build-out in that community, or in that area, that we need to look, whether this passes tonight or not, we need to look at transit, and that's something that Councillor Lowe and I sit on that board. We meet next week, so that's a question we will ask them as well. But just for city staff, that is important, that when we see those communities growing, we need to get people moving around. We talk about it, we're building bike lanes, we're putting sidewalks and crosswalks, and transit is a huge thing. We want to get people out of cars. Second thing, I should have asked this to the developer or to Don Moores. How soon could we expect shovels in the ground if this passes tonight? Is that okay to ask them?
Yes, so yes. Or do you have the information? Do you want to come up to the mic, because anybody who's watching won't be able to hear?
I mean, we would definitely like to start as soon as possible, one of the buildings. So at best, I mean, what we see is next year is going to be mostly all the approvals. Financing takes time, CMHC takes a long time. So 27, early to 27 should be the building going up. We will try to aim for fall for the rock, or, you know, the removing the trees.
Fall of 2026?
6, yeah. I mean, this is all, I mean, this could change.
Yeah, I understand the city process, but you guys are prepared to move forward with this as soon as you get all the approvals and?
Yeah, we're going to start with financing as soon as we get some plans approved.
Thank you.
I've got a quick question for Eva. In the kit, it says blasting, or not blasting, but rock breaking 8 to 6. So is it the 10 hours that we're restricting, or is it the actual time? Could it be moved to 7 to 5, or would that work? Is it the length of time that we're looking at?
Your Worship, 8 to 6 was just the original number thrown out by PAC, but they did have the caveat that council could discuss that and change if need be.
Okay, so would we say that we limit it to 10 hours versus 8 to 6? Or is that what we could do?
We could propose it 7 to 5. That would be voted on as Section 59 conditions at third reading.
Oh, right, yeah, third reading. Okay, sounds good. Councillor Sullivan? Over to you for a question.
Yeah, no, I might be able to answer your question, Your Worship, because I made the motion at PAC. There was a letter that was submitted, and so you may have seen it in your kit, by a fella named Patrick Woods.
I did read that, in fact.
Who lives in the neighborhood. And it was his suggestion that rock breaking certainly is a concern of the neighborhood, but if that time was limited from 8 until 6, for many, that would be during the workday, so they would go and the rock breaking would take place while most people were working. I do appreciate that, you know, Don Moore went out and had that further conversation following PAC. So I think that was the intent. I was following up on the intent from some of the letters that were submitted. But I would see if council moved that to 7 to 5. I appreciate the compromise and the conversation that the developer had with the neighborhood.
Yeah, so do I. I just think, I do know the construction world starts a lot earlier than the regular world, so I just wasn't sure if it was a minimum of 10 hours, that was the thing, and if we could switch that. So we'll talk about that, I guess, next time around. Councillor Harris.
Thank you, Mayor. I will move the staff recommendation with the Section 59s as staff has put in there to get it on the table.
Okay, hang on here, I gotta get to my Bible. All right, City Clerk, so we need, go ahead there.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, we would just require the two motions, approve first reading by title and approve second reading by title.
Okay, so you're approving first reading by title. I'll take a seconder on that. Councillor Darling? Yeah, on the question? Councillor?
Yeah, Mayor, if I could just make a comment first. I mean, we were at questions, but I just wanted to take an opportunity to say something. I wanted to make sure that people kind of understood I am a supporter of this project. You know, and there was comments and letters that talked about needing improvements to transit, improvements to sidewalks, improvements to playgrounds. And it is this kind of project that allows tax dollars to be able to do those improvements. Boar's Head Road sidewalk is a prime example, actually, right in your neighborhood. People were advocating for 20 years to extend out that sidewalk, and it was not until there was a business case having buildings going up there that council ended up approving that, and we finished up the sidewalk. This is really what is going to do that. The other thing is, I mean, I even though I lived east, I spent so much time in Milledgeville. Brentwood Towers, there was a lot of opposition for that. It's 15 stories. You know what? It was always there, you know, and it was just part of the landscape. So for me, it's great to see the changes. I really appreciate the changes that the developers trying to get the trees in there and everything so that it blends a little better. When you look over, you're seeing a lot of trees. But this is how you get things in your neighborhood is to grow the city. And the idea is to grow all areas so that we have mixed neighborhoods to grow the population.
Thank you, Councillor. The motion is on the floor. It's been seconded. I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Councillor Ogden opposed. Motion carried. You're going to read that, City Clerk?
A law to amend the zoning bylaw of the City of St. John.
I'll take a motion to approve second reading by title. Councillor Harris and Councillor Darling on the question. All in favor? Opposed? Councillor Ogden. Motion carried.
A law to amend the zoning bylaw of the City of St. John.
Okay, I'm going to ask for a motion for a 5-minute, 10-minute break. Okay. Okay, and I got a seconder on that. All right, we'll take a recess. Okay.
Test, test, 1, 2, 3, test. Test 1, test 2, test 3, test, test. Test, test, 1, 2, 3, test. 1, 2, 3, test, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, test. 1, 2, 3, test, 1, 2, 3.
All right, we're going to I'm going to get rolling. Do I need a motion to come back to?
No, you can just call it.
I'm calling the meeting back to order.
We lost all the mics. She has to restart the system. Where's my working?
My mic's working, your mic's working. Some of the mics, oh, it's the audio up there that they're having problems with. The deputy had to leave, his back is gone. We'll just, okay. We're going to restart the system. He's looking down here at us.
We have to restart the system.
Okay, it's not on yet? Okay. You forgot what? Oh, you're coming back? Oh. No, his back's killing him, he's gotta go home. His back's bad, Brent Harris's back is bad. Not that bad, though. Just waiting for them to restart the mics. No, we're waiting for them to restart the mics. We got no mics.
The audio's not working.
Audio's not working. Audio's not working. Oh, it's starting. Please stand by. Okay, we're back in business. So I'm just going to call the meeting back to order. Thank you. All right, City Clerk, over to you. Next item.
Thank you, Your Worship. Next on the agenda is item 11.1. This is a submission from a council member, Councillor Ogden, entitled Proposal for Fort Howe and Robertson Square.
Over to you, Councillor Ogden.
Since I'm on the North End Committee, I'd like to just refer this to staff and the North End Committee.
So we'll just refer it back to the committee?
Yeah.
That's the best, okay. What do we need? Do we need a motion to refer it back over there? Who's support? What? Okay, Councillor Sullivan's referring it. I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Councillor Ogden. That's the best place for it. The ideas and plans should come out right from the grassroots. Oh, well, thank God we referred it. Next item, City Clerk.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is item 12.1, Chief Administrative Officer update on select catalytic projects and advocacy.
Over to you, CAO.
Thank you, Your Worship. Good evening. For the catalytic projects update, I'll provide an update on 3 projects, starting first with the public schools. So we continue to work together with the province and the Anglophone South School District. For the North End School, structural steel is still progressing and is mostly in place now. And the South End School foundation work continues. And for our capital work along St. James Street to support the school, all the underground infrastructure work is completed. And the north side of the street, all street work has been completed, and base asphalt in the street. And we'll complete the south side of St. James Street, the curb work and that sort of thing next year once the foundation work for the school is completed. And then seal it all with a top coat of asphalt. In terms of our affordable housing, as it relates to grants, the third round intake for affordable housing grant program was opened on November 17th and will remain open until January 16th. The city's half target for affordable housing has been exceeded, with permits issued for 161 affordable housing units since 2024, and there are about 200 that are being tracked. The soft cost grant program remains open to receive new applications, and the federal government Build Canada Homes portal is now open. The federal government's looking for shovel-ready affordable housing projects with a focus on transitional and supportive housing, and the city is engaging in discussions with the province and the nonprofit sector on project proposals. In terms of our Housing Accelerator Fund program updates, we will be updating the dashboard in the next couple of weeks, and that will provide results current up to the end of November. For e-permitting, we've entered negotiations with the top 3 proponents, and we anticipate selecting a final proponent for e-permitting in January or in early 2026. And lastly, with respect to Fundy Key, more work has been completed over the past 2 weeks regarding the stage enhancement. The sound system testing is completed and calibration successfully done. And stage work will continue after Uptown Sparkles. And lastly, I would say it's soon time to get your skates ready for the public skating space down at the Gathering Space. And the team is getting ready, putting together all the components to ensure that that will be ready once the temperatures are ripe to sustain ice in that space. And that concludes the update, Your Worship.
Thank you so much, CAO. Don't see any questions for you, so I'll take, Councillor Lowe, over to you.
Yeah, the job done on Broad Street pertaining to the school is probably the nicest Broad Street has looked in 50 or 60 years. It no doubt was thinned out and grass put in the middle, and the people down there, they can't believe how nice it looks. It's beautiful.
Sure does. Councillor Harris, over to you.
Yeah, it's just a question on governance. When do we revisit, or is the, I mean, this is probably a better question for one of our, like Mr. Reed, but maybe you can answer it, Mr. McGovern. Do we have a point in which we're going to review the current arrangement of our affordable housing programs? Because I know we've talked about some not getting enough applications, or there being another round because we didn't get enough applications, like on the soft costs. I'm just wondering, do we have an off-ramp to review that, to reallocate those to areas where we're getting more traction? Yeah.
We continue to assess that. So far, the uptake has been good, like on the soft cost grants program and the affordable housing intake. So, you know, the uptake is good at this point in time, but we will revisit it if need be.
Okay, okay, thank you.
Okay, I'll take a motion to receive for information. Councillor Stewart and Councillor Lowe on the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Next item, City Clerk.
Next is 12.2, Housing for All Strategy Update.
Commissioner Poffenroff, over to you for the intro, please.
Thank you, Your Worship, and members of council. Homelessness, as you all know, in our community is a large concern, and not all of our citizens have a safe, warm place to lay their head. In partnership with the province of New Brunswick, the city received funding as part of the Federal Unsheltered Homelessness and Encampments Initiative. This funding, this funding has enabled the city, province, and community partners to create a temporary transitional housing pilot, the city's green zones, located on Egbert and Thorne, which are operated by Neighborly Homes, as you know well. Number 2, the implementation of the red zones per the Housing for All policy framework with the city's outreach team operated by Fresh Start Services and other initiatives supporting the city's unsheltered homeless population. With any new initiative, there are many learnings, new opportunities, and successes. Recognizing the urgency of finding safe, warm, dry spaces for individuals living rough to reside in the winter months is of utmost importance, and the team will continue to work with partners to realize that goal. I now invite Kara Coase, your Senior Manager of Community Support Services, to provide an update on the Housing for All strategy, including the status of the Red Zone implementation plan and next steps with this very important work supporting our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Poffenroth, Your Worship, members of council. Here this evening to provide an update on the Housing for All strategy, including some updates with the Red Zone implementation plan and moving forward with our next steps. On September 8th, 2025, Council approved the Red Zone implementation plan, and we returned back on September 22nd with amendment to the plan and the policy framework for final approval. On September 23rd, the Red Zone implementation plan began. thought it was important to highlight two of the principles that are part of our Housing for All policy framework, noting that the city is taking a human rights-based approach and person-centered. What we mean by this is that when we're putting together plans and working with individuals from the unsheltered population, we are ensuring that all of the approaches and everything that we do, working with our partners at all levels of government as well as community, is that we are all approaching this as a human rights approach with person-centered. The Housing for All strategy contains 4 objectives and 28 actions, and this strategy was approved in July 2024. As part of the Housing for All strategy, an action within that contained implementing some green zones to start with, and I wanted to provide a quick update on our green zones. So Egbert Street was the first green zone that opened, and Neighborly Homes are the operators of the green zone, and Egbert Street opened on August the 1st. Thorne Avenue was scheduled to open on December the 1st. However, we were able to move that date up, and they were able to open on November the 5th for us. Currently, there are 6 vacancies at each of the green zones, and each green zone has a total of 27 units. Neighborly Homes also has a social and learning space for various programs for such as employment readiness and resume building, housing goal setting, ID recovery, and community connection through optional programs. As well, there's other services and support that come on site at the green zones to work with the clients, and they also are in partnership with MBCC for students from community services to be on site to support as well. I wanted to include an overview of the stats for homelessness in St. John for the year of 2025. When we look at the blue bar across from January through till the end of October, that number is indicating how many total homeless people we have in the city of St. John. Where the orange bar, that number is indicating how many homeless individuals are experiencing chronic homelessness. Chronic homelessness is for at least 6 months or more, where identifying as being homeless at least one day that month is where that blue graph comes in. It's important to see that we have a higher number now at the end of October than we did in January of overall homelessness. And I also wanted to mention that the point-in-time count took place on November the 19th. We're waiting for that data to come out. We expect it to be in January. And when that information comes forward, we'll be able to have a snapshot of what homelessness looked like in our city on November the 19th specifically. As you can tell, there's different areas where the homeless individuals are being sheltered or unsheltered. So for example, when you look at this pie chart, 53% of the homeless population are hidden homelessness. So they may be couch surfing or in temporary rentals. The red piece of the chart, that's 9% currently living outdoors in red zones. 4% are living outdoors in green zones. 20% are staying in emergency shelter beds, and 14% are at our supported sites, Somerset Acres in the North End, as well as at the green zones. This spectrum of housing are the different levels of housing that the province of New Brunswick looks at when they're putting together housing opportunities for different communities. So what that means is when they're looking at our type of homeless individuals and what their needs and requirements are, that's helping them to determine what type of housing needs to be put into place to support our homeless population. You'll notice 3 of the options have circles around them, and those are the 3 areas that the Housing for All strategy addresses, whereas the other areas, the Housing for All strategy does not. So we see that as unsheltered, and that's where we see our encampments, emergency shelters, and transitional housing is where our green zones and Somerset Acres would fall. A reminder about encampment relocation response, that if anybody from the community needs to report an encampment, they can call into the city or send an email through. We do have response times in place working with our outreach team, whereas there's rapid response within 30 minutes, quick response same day, or standard response within 2 to 3 days. And these response times are determined based on what area in the red zone that somebody would be located. And the city does follow a 3-step process with our outreach team, which follows that person-centered approach. a snapshot reminder of what the red zone map looks like for the city of St. John, and the QR code to indicate or bring you right through to Shape Your City where that map is located. Red zones are properties that contain one or more of the following uses: a school, daycare, early learning center, licensed after-school program, special needs center, green zone, crisis care facility, emergency shelters, playgrounds, splash pads, sports fields, designated parks, provincially designated highways, railways, harbor passage, and cemeteries. Tents, encampments, or temporary shelters will not be permitted in a red zone. Anything that is not designated as red would be yellow. The Red Zone Implementation Plan had a goal for November the 17th of no tents and encampments or temporary shelters remaining in red zones. A goal of enhanced monitoring of red zones is to begin, and relocations will occur as necessary. The notes section in the center talks about how there may be specific circumstances due to unique individual needs in their specific relocation plan, where one or more tents could remain further into the plan. Yellow zones are established, and as I mentioned, if it's not red in designation, it would fall under yellow, where the individuals would require consent for residing or setting up their tent on private lands, but not for public. And yellow zones are established not as a permanent solution, but to give an option for those who are living in tents to have another location to go to outside of red zones while they are waiting for housing solutions. An update in regards to the Housing for All strategy overall. We want to share some successes around our supported sites and transitional housing. As mentioned earlier, our green zones have opened, one of them opening a month ahead of schedule. And Somerset Acres is just about a year old now since it opened, and wanted to share that 3 people have transitioned out of Somerset Acres into housing, and 3 more are getting ready to transition into housing. Successes with encampments is that we're adhering to a human rights-based approach. 15 people have been relocated from 11 sites. 9 encampments in red zones have been fully vacated, and 9 encampments are now in yellow zones. 14 encampments have been cleaned, with 5 vacated encampment sites restored to natural state. And occupied encampment sites have an occupant weekly cleanup. And something new that was not part of the original plan is that storage solutions are being put in place for those living in encampments and shelters as well. Other successes related to initiatives is 2 new pieces that are coming through a little later tonight: our Community Safety and Security Team and Community Resilience Grant. Implementing garbage cleaning 4 evenings a week have been added to Waterloo Village area in September, and that's going well. And new announcement by police is at the Safe Neighborhood Camera Registry. That was announced last week. In regards to the provincial action in response to our city request in September, that a provincial task force has been established after council's call for the creation of a provincially led action team. Additional dedicated security services have been added to emergency shelters in the city. And new mobile public health resources, including a social worker, community nurses, LPNs, and a community services staff are around to support on-house individuals, either in the shelters or out in the community. Some opportunities with the Housing for All strategy outlines 300 plus deeply affordable units are anticipated to be available over the next 2 years. And Sunnyside's community, which will bring us 70 to 80 modular tiny homes, are expected to break ground shortly. Yellow zone is, we're still exploring what a yellow zone close to medical services could look like, and the possibility of it being on provincial property. And also exploring mobilizing resources and transportation options for the on-house to be able to access services in different areas of the community. Challenges with our strategy is that there's an increase in number of high acuity and complex needs that require provincial solutions. And this is a gap that does not, that the Housing for All strategy does not address. There's been an increase in homelessness in St. John by 61 since August, and in August is when our first green zone opened. 18 encampment sites are still in the red zones. The majority of these individuals are high acuity or have health and mobility challenges where a yellow zone may not currently work. And significant resources are clustered in Waterloo Village, such as food, healthcare, and harm reduction. And there's no current yellow zone in close proximity of these services. Additional challenges include lack of sufficient places for unsheltered individuals to go during the day and in proximity to where they are staying, given the Out of the Cold shelter is open from 8 in the evening until 8 in the morning. Our outreach team with Fresh Start Services, Shift SJ, are still onboarding new team members. Challenges in obtaining accurate and timely data, and we need solutions via a provincial homelessness strategy. For next steps throughout December, enhanced monitoring of red zones will continue with the goal to prevent any new tents or structures being erected in designated red zones. Occupied encampments will continue to be monitored to ensure adherence to safety and cleanliness. Outreach and support services will continue to develop client transition plans out of red zones for the remaining high acuity and complex needs of those still residing. Throughout December and January, we'll be hosting, in partnership with our community and province, roundtable summits on mobilizing resources and transportation options. And a few things that are working. Where approximately 13% of individuals experiencing homelessness in St. John remain unsheltered, and we are advancing urgent solutions with the province and frontline agencies. And we are maintaining a rights-based approach and getting individuals indoors. Looking ahead, our implementation plan will remove specific deadlines for final relocations of the red zones. We are doing this in light of individuals who still need to be relocated. We will continue to do this in a timing will be on case-by-case basis, informed by what those individual needs are. Noting that we want to ensure resources of availability of beds, food, and medical support are close proximity for these individuals. And the city will be consulting on provincial task force on homelessness and requesting more solutions for individuals experiencing addictions and mental health issues, more housing solutions for high acuity individuals, and additional transitional housing and supported sites for low and mid acuity. With that, the recommendation is that Common Council receive and file this report and the attached monthly infographic for information. With that, I'm available for questions with Greg Cutler, Manager of Community Development.
Okay, sounds good. We've got a few questions here. Councillor Sullivan, you're up first, please. Excuse me.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd like to offer this motion. Resolved that Common Council not receive and file this report. Further resolved that the CAO be directed to continue with the implementation of the Housing for All Red, Yellow, Green Zone strategy as approved by Common Council on September 8th and 22nd. If I get a seconder, I will speak further. Thank you, Councillor. Your Worship, I'm a little frustrated. In September, we had 2 special meetings of Council to address the implementation of the Housing for All strategy. There appeared to be urgency on the behalf of staff and council in response to the urgent situation we have in St. John. Coincidentally, perhaps, Councillor Norton was also bringing forward a notice of motion with a very prescriptive plan to remove encampments from city property. I can't help but wonder that when Councillor Norton's plan did not receive the endorsement of council, that city staff perhaps lost some of the urgency to follow the plan approved by council. I would like to directly address a few items in the report to support what I'm saying. The purpose of the strategy, it says, this strategy advances our shared vision of every resident having a safe, supported, and sustainable home. The current state of living in the neighborhoods that are host communities for encampments and some of the supported housing does not have those neighborhood residents feeling safe nor supported by the efforts of the City of St. John. While I believe our green zone initiatives are a very great success, our red zone implementation plan is a failure. The goal to have no tents, encampments, or temporary shelters remaining in the red zones. I do understand that there may be specific circumstances due to individual needs and specific relocation plans may be needed, but 18 encampment sites are still in the red zones while only 9 have been removed. That's a 33% success rate. That's a failure. The dates stated in the plan were the dates recommended by staff and approved by council. Some of the successes that were mentioned, the new community safety and security safety and security process and the new community resilience grant, I think are going to be fantastic. And the police announcement of the Safe Neighborhood Camera Registry that came from the chief of police, I think it's a great idea. The Community Safety and Security and Community Resilience Grant are a little late to the party, yet to be implemented, and should have been included when this plan was implemented in September. As we had been briefed over the past 2 years, I and other councillors had requested support for the host communities. And for almost 2 years, the requests during briefings were ignored, including an in-depth conversation that the CAO and I had at a follow-up conversation following a briefing on the policy where I had expressed frustration that staff had brought nothing forward to address the concerns expressed by councillors to councillors by businesses and residents that have been contacting councillors. In fact, a plan only surfaced when Committee of the Whole unanimously endorsed a motion directing staff to return with the framework for security support within 2 weeks. The Safe Neighborhood Camera Registry is an innovative idea from the police chief, and it was developed independently from the Housing for All plan. Looking ahead, and this is why I don't believe we can accept this as a receive and file. In the looking ahead portion, it says our implementation plan will remove specific deadlines for final relocations from red zones. That was included as an approved policy voted on by Common Council. I don't believe a receive and file can change policy voted on by Common Council. And finally, a goal without a date is just a dream. If we don't have deadlines, and you know what? Goals and deadlines can be changed, they can be rearranged by, with new information, but the accountability to this council of a plan that we instituted isn't here if we just remove the dates. I am happy to see us receive further updates. I'm sad that we had a couple of very, I thought, productive meetings in September and let ourselves move on to other things. Anyway, that's my motion and my statement. Thanks, Your Worship.
Okay, so there is a motion on the floor, and I'll let Councillor Ogden, you're up next if you'd like to speak to that. And I will wrap it up. I'll speak to it at the end.
You want to go first?
You go ahead first. I'm gathering my thoughts.
Okay. I agree with this. And I want people to know, because people say, why do you have yellow zones if we can get everybody living in red zones? And I hear that a lot. And people have to realize that the federal government has taken a stand on a human rights approach. Now, it is nebulous, and there are people questioning this human rights approach. And that doesn't mean you're anti-human. It just means sometimes you can offer a person a place, but they, in the human rights approach, can deny it. Now, stats show 95% of people do accept it, which is good. I'm not sold on the idea that we should leave people in tents because, like I said, at the funeral parlor 3 times last week, and there are people preying on tent encampments, there are people preying on mental illness, there are people preying on shelters, and I hear on the street, and I'm out on the street a lot, that some of the encampments have drug dealers involved. And I know when I went to this funeral last week, there were a lot of young people, a lot of families. There's a lot of hurt going on in this community, and people are afraid to walk on the streets and everything else. But we would have lost probably, I think it was $3.5 million if we had not gone with the yellow zones. That is a federal rule, and that's federal money we can't turn down. But I really, really want us to really, I mean, we've got to get our police department at full force, and we need a lot more. And that is another issue. But the thing is, we've got to address, in a harsh, aggressive way, the drug dealers. And maybe we've become too liberal in that sense. I don't mean political party thing. But maybe we just need to come down a lot harder to protect. I mean, going to those funeral parlors last week really affected me. How many young people are speaking up against this? Anyway, I fully agree with what Councillor Sullivan is saying. Thank you.
Councillor Redwan, over to you next.
Thank you, Mayor. I do have a question for Kara, if I may ask.
Yep, definitely.
So I think, you know, for the sake of the public, like, I'm just wondering, like, why are there still vacancies in the green zones? You know, we're seeing people in tents, like, you know, obviously we want to get them into even transitional housing. Why are they not getting filled?
Through your worship to the counselor. With both of the sites, there's interviews that are done with the potential clients to move in as program participants. The selection is made, and there was a selection to fill all units for both of the sites. And once sometimes individuals move in, it's just not the right fit for them, so then
Sure.
they may choose not to stay, as well as sometimes they agree to move in and then decide not to at the last minute for whatever reason. So there's been a couple of instances where that has occurred. Additionally, there were, until the social component was added to both of the green zone sites with the little kitchenette and where they can have some programming, they were utilizing a couple of the vacant units that didn't have anybody living in them. So they were using those as a space to be able, for the residents to be able to access. And now that they have the social units, they're back available for individuals to move into. There is, I believe it's 4 people that are going to be, 4 people are online to move in the next couple of weeks, which just would then leave a few more vacancies to work through.
Well, that's good. I mean, are there things that are missing there that people are needing? Because I know that when I went over, they were building ramps, you know, everything is really clean, it's kind of cozy. Is there something missing from the green zones that, you know, we could try to support, or?
No, there hasn't been anything identified as missing. It's much like when we go on it's a little bit different, but when we go out looking for a place to move into, an apartment or a house, we know what we want to move into, what we're interested in, and sometimes we'll be somewheres and it's not a right fit for us. These individuals approach that the same way. They want to be able to feel, it's not that they're not appreciative of the warm, dry space. It just it's not a right fit for them. There could be a neighbor that's in the same courtyard that they don't get along with, and the team tries to help navigate those relationships as well. It's a really big transition to move into a location after having been living in tents or shelters for quite some time. So part of this is the transition piece as well.
Okay, I mean, I just find that a little shocking, because I can't imagine that I'd want to go back to a tent instead of being somewhere warm, especially with winter coming. So that's a little concerning. But I do agree with Councillor Sullivan, actually. I think that we do need to have yellow zones set up with services. Water, washrooms, safe way to keep warm, you know, because you know, we've seen communities struggling to find things to be able to burn to just keep warm, and so we definitely want to protect everybody, so that they're not burning anything that could be toxic to them or the community and that sort of thing. And until there's housing, what do you do? But I mean, to me, council has said that a red zone is a red zone is a red zone, and you know, so the change needs to happen right away. We're already past the time. The Housing for All strategy, respectfully, Kara, does address mental health and addictions. So unless there's people with high acuity that need to be hospitalized, I don't see anything in here that doesn't talk about all the things that are needed for anybody with high acuity. So if there's medical reasons that somebody needs to be hospitalized or something, then the hospital is there. So I think that I'm feeling a little bit frustrated with that too. I don't know if you want to comment on it, but because I don't really understand with this addressing that, what kind of high acuity is there that's not in there that needs to be looked after? Like, can they not go to a hospital? There are hospital beds.
Through your worship to the counselor, correct, there are hospital beds and some of the individuals are brought into different clinics or hospitals. However, there isn't a solution for them in regards to shelter. So that's when sometimes these folks are released back out into homelessness, and they're just waiting for housing or other types of residences that could meet their needs. And that's where the housing spectrum comes into play, and the city, not the city, the province working with the city to identify and working with the outreach team and other professionals in the field to identify what types of housing we need, what needs to be put into place to best support the homeless population in our community.
Yeah, with us having multiple yellow zones, I think that, you know, we need to make sure that the parks and public spaces are the red zones that we've chosen, and people do have options, and we're doing it in a nice way. However, the red zone needs to be a red zone.
Councillor Darling?
Thank you, Your Worship. I guess kind of two quick points that I want to make to Councillor Sullivan's point and Councillor Radwan as well. It feels, to put it really, really simply, like the exception has become the rule for this plan. And for me, I'm a very kind of data-driven person, and I don't even have the information I need to say, okay, well, if this isn't working now, here's the steps we can take to pivot, which for me is really hard, as I'm sure it is hard for many members of staff who may be the same kind of brained way. So certainly empathetic and also frustrated about figuring out how to move forward. And I think part of that, leading into my second point, is we're kind of trying to enact our plan that we've, you know, on paper is where our roles lie and what we need to do. And we're kind of facing these roadblocks of a lack of urgency from these gaps in other systems and levels of government. We need to come along with us in order to make this work at the end of the day. And I think the one thing I kind of want to make, and sorry for folks who are going to hear me repeat myself from earlier, but I think we need to remember that for many nonprofits, they've been created to fill in gaps for systems that have been broken and leaving people behind. And we can't count on them to fix these broken systems that they're not involved in. And that's not to discredit the work that many of our great nonprofits are doing. That's more so to say, you know, the Band-Aid we've put on to get to the hospital isn't going to fix the broken arm at the end of the day. So I think remembering the urgency that we called for from our provincial government back in September, and we're now at December 1st, we need that urgency tomorrow or later this evening. We need that urgency to really be present, and it's not enough to kind of hear again that a plan or a letter or something is coming later. Like, we and our constituents and our citizens need to see something now, because folks are far past frustrated. And I know I'm preaching to the choir a little bit, Kara, so forgive me, but I just think it really needs to be said, and we need to remember that we need to fix these systems in order for these problems really to be solved.
Thank you. Councillor Harris?
Has everybody, thank you, Mayor, sorry, through you. Has everybody who are not in the red zones, or sorry, those who are in the red zones, they're on all kinds of folks' land. Part of the enforcement process requires the landowners to send the requests off for these folks to be moved off their land for trespassing. Am I right?
Through your worship to the counselor, on private properties, yes, they would reach out to us to
So one of the
report
big
it.
one of the big holders here is DTI, Department of Transportation Infrastructure. Have they issued all of the required notices of trespassing in compliance with that?
Through your worship to the counselor, I can't comment on the notice of trespassing, but I can share that later on the agenda packet, there is a license agreement with the province of New Brunswick's DTI's department to be able to relocate off of their properties.
Right, so I guess here's my point with all this. It's fine to say that things could have been done sooner, faster. You can always bring a motion, Councillor, if there's something that you think was missing. I know that we talked about concerns, but to this motion specifically, there could have been amendments, there could have been a suggestion for these funds to be created earlier. I don't want to hold that against staff for failing to do that, because we're not going to go out and find professionals in this sphere around this area. You can't go across this country and find somebody who's threaded the needle on the court systems. It's not the federal government, by the way, Councillor Ogden, that has decided this. It's the court systems We are not in a place to push against what federal court has ruled around human rights components of standard of living, of what municipalities can and cannot do when it comes to this. And especially where we're looking down the barrel tonight of a piece of an important piece that needs to be put in play to see the fulfillment of these red zone enforcement options. I don't see how we can shoot this plan down. We couldn't have done better. We're not going to go out and find some municipality that's done it perfectly. We're only 5 months into this current contract. We knew going into it, and I was there for the meetings at least, where we had lots of heads up that this is going to need some flexibility, and this is going to need, from your team, Kara, if I'm paraphrasing, that this is going to need some patience, because we don't have an active proponent here in town who's done this before that can look to for best practices. Like, there's just so many other pieces that it feels like we're bringing the hammer down on this issue, on something where we've already received some latitude from another level of government to go and do something different in this province. But now we're trying to bring the hammer down on it. It doesn't make any sense to me. It's not good governance. It's not good policy. Sure, we missed a date. We missed a lot of dates. There's many dates that have been missed for motions of councillors that have come and gone. But we don't bring the hammer down on staff for not doing it. We understand capacity is limited. So it just feels strange to me. I'd love to serve this back over to you, Councillor Sullivan, but at where I'm sitting, this is just poor practice to try to pull the rug out like this. So correct me if I'm wrong, but I can't support it at this time.
Okay, I'll ask the CAO to chime in to see what the difference would be with this motion going forward. But what I will say, and I'll just chime into all of this as well, on the October 29th meeting of the Finance Committee, we were provided with the municipal government's lane and what our jobs were doing, what we here have all signed up for. So we signed up for city roads, police and fire services, utilities, public transit, zoning, land use, parks, recreation, solid waste. What we're trying to do now is the provincial government's lane, which is education, healthcare, highways, income assistance, subsidized housing, nursing homes, social services, justice. And then there's the federal government, who has seniors programs, poverty reduction, employment programs, funding, healthcare, foreign affairs, family benefits, national defense, postal services. So we're trying to use the taxpayers' money a lot of times to create solutions for homelessness, and hasn't been easy. And I appreciate Councillor Sullivan's frustration. I think we all feel that, and I certainly don't blame staff with not moving forward on it. I know that we have an outreach crew that are dealing directly with people that are homeless. We're getting our information back from them. We've hired that crew to do that. We've hired Fresh Start to do that, to facilitate people to move from A to B. We do have, I think our kit says tonight, 43% or something like that are on DTI property. But DTI also is not enforcing their own rules. So if you'll see structures built, it's on DTI's property. They should be looking after some of that stuff. It's overgrown, and there's all kinds of things that are happening there. So I think at the end of the day that, going forward, we're doing what we can. We're using the human rights approach, which is another commitment to getting this done and to getting it done the right way. But I do appreciate the frustration. I think we all feel that way. We'd like to get housing solved. Don't have the money. If the province wants to come forward with the cash for us, I think we could figure it out, maybe. So I'm going to ask the CAO, if you don't mind, just giving your thoughts, if you're ready to do that, on what this differential would mean for us. We're going to continue with the councillor's motions to continue to move the plan forward.
Sure, thank you, Your Worship. So in terms of the urgency, I'd say that the urgency remains for us. Do we feel a level of frustration as staff as well? Yes. We'd love to get it right, 100% right the first time. Clearly, we're not there. This is a journey. We're on a journey. Have we made progress? Yes, there has been progress, and I'd say we are leading the way in the province of New Brunswick, and there's no silver bullet to this, but there's definitely more work to be done. The reality, though, is that there are limitations to our plan. There are limitations in terms of the Housing for All solution, and the ability for the city of St. John to solve what's before us solely, I don't think is possible. We recognize that, and even as part of the plan that was adopted, there's a grandfather clause within the plan that was adopted on September 22nd that where it says, and I'll read it, the city and its outreach service will exercise compassion and flexibility in relocating individuals living in tents, structures, or encampments that have been established for a long time, and we will adjust the time for relocation based upon the unique needs of individual while maintaining the overall intention of this framework, which includes the Housing for All 4. So, you know, we are looking at a case-by-case basis. We don't have the skill set internally as staff to do that, but we're working with our outreach service provider to look at individuals on a case-by-case basis to understand what are the needs to relocate someone out of a red zone. And if we're able to identify that, then we need to work with the province to bring about solutions for maybe a yellow zone that is in closer proximity to wraparound services, hospitals, those sorts of things. But it's definitely not something we can do on our own. We need the province at the table to bring the solutions that are required. And when you saw Kara present on the Housing for All spectrum, it clearly denotes or highlights in those circles the sections of the spectrum being worked on. It doesn't address the institutions that are needed, the mental health services, the addiction services, all of those various components of the spectrum that are broader than what we can bring to bear. And so those are the solutions that we need from the province in order to continue to advance the plan and address those who remain in the red zones so that we can further move them along.
Councillor Sullivan, I'm going to go back to you. I'll just quickly say too, like living uptown, I encounter homeless people, and some people are just homeless. You know, they may have some drug issues, but some people do have mental health issues, and I see that a lot uptown as well. So I appreciate the spectrum of needs that are there and the difficulty in trying to find a place for people with high acuity, because sometimes they can often be unpredictable, and so it makes it difficult for housing people. But Councillor Sullivan, back to you.
Thank you, Your Worship. I certainly appreciate all of the comments made. I really want to go back. The motion I made was that we continue to follow the strategy that we passed. I scratched out a lot of the other bits that I had when I was really frustrated in putting this together. Because at the end of the day, one thing I've always been proud of that we have done well at council is we have planned the work and worked the plans. Our plans don't sit on a shelf. They're live and we activate them. The other piece that I've learned is a plan needs to be changed. You talk about it, you discuss it, you get data for it, and you approve the change to the plan. My frustration here was that moving forward, we would remove all dates. And from a process point of view, because that's a bit of a stickly thing with me, this was a receive and file. In my mind, removing the dates is a significant change to a council-approved plan. So if that's something that council decides we want to do as part of the plan, then we need to talk about that in the totality of what things need to be improved in the plan. I agree completely with Councillor Radwan. One piece of the urgency that we talked in September, we started talking about yellow zones, and we haven't had a discussion about yellow zones since. And I will conclude with this, because the best line of the night, I think, goes to Councillor Darling. Councillor Darling has expressed better than I where I sit. I'm empathetic and frustrated.
All right, Councillor Lowe, over to you for the wrap-up, I guess.
Yeah, like, as a majority of everything's in my ward, I see improvement in Garden Street. There's no tents below, there's 2 tents above. What I don't like and what the public doesn't like, the tents are surrounded by pallets wood pallets. And I'm sure the fire chief, that bothers him. The garbage, Haymarket Square, they're down to 5 tents. There's about 5 or 6 gone, but then 2 more went up on the other side. But that was one of the rules. We weren't allowed to have new tents in red zones, right? 2 have gone up. Could have been came from somewhere else. But for instance, it's the public that we're trying to, that's complaining to all of us, right? And rightfully so. We passed a motor vehicle deal here back a couple weeks ago. We got people walking in the traffic at, what do you call it there now? Well, they're out in Rossi Road out there, he's out there, and they're down at, they're all over the place. They're interfering with traffic, then they're disappearing. I think they're going in, one of them's going in the tent there right across from Bernan's. We've done nothing about that. We had a special meeting, we called a meeting here one night, we passed a motion, and they're interfering with traffic, we haven't done a thing. That's bothering people. Haymarket Square, and I'm not being critical of Mike or to you, Brent, or anybody, right? A job to clean up that could be done. There's a mattress that has been sitting there by itself for at least 6 days. It's never been moved. It's right beside the road. I'm not saying WS should get it. I can see the guys from Local 18 not going anywhere near where there's needles and et cetera, right? But we could do a better job of cleaning up. The other thing I really think should happen, Fresh Start says they can't move them. We hired them. They said they can't move them because they got problems, right? They get problems, no doubt. They got to go to the hospital. They got to do this. They got to do that. Why don't we, just in the 2 red zones, the 2 squares that are owned by the province, that are controlled by the province, that doesn't allow us to move anybody out of the provincial zones, why don't we send, I was going to say a lady, I could say a lady or a male, to go with Fresh Start and see exactly what is being said to Fresh Start, and they can bring it back to council. There, right there. Why couldn't he go with Fresh Start? I don't know if they would allow it, but I would force them to allow it, that they go to the red zones in the squares and find out why they can't be moved. And then they can report back to council, truthfully, what's going on. Because that's what we're doing. We're not trusting Fresh Start for doing the job they're supposed to be doing and being hired to do and being paid to do. And we're just going through circles and circles and circles, right? But I, as a councillor, having both squares in my ward, would love to see a city employee go with Fresh Start and find out the reason why that tent can't be moved. And I don't think it's wrong. I mean, until we get involved directly with Fresh Start on the scene, we're just going to come back here and go on and on and on. And that's what we're doing. We're accomplishing nothing, but things have been better. Like, I mean, I'm happy when I come by, Garden Street, I see no tents back. A couple of them burnt, but at least the city came and cleaned the burnt stuff up and took it away. But there's garbage out there that if somebody from the city went with somebody from Fresh Start and said, can we remove the pallets at least? And tell me why you can't remove pallets. Is it protection for the tent? But I mean, that's a fire hazard and that's the problems that we're having. But I think that we have to get involved directly with Fresh Start with them and go with them, right? And that's the only solution, I think.
Through your worship to the councillor. So we do have a Housing for All advisor, in addition to our community development manager, that does go out with Fresh Start occasionally. However, based on the nature of the work that they do with the clients, there's not each site that we're able to go onto the site with them, and the type of conversations that they're having, that we're not privy to those conversations for privacy concerns as well. However, we are working with Fresh Start to identify how many individuals at each site need what types of services and supports on a high level. Again, with the privacy component, we're not privy to that information, but if we have an overview of this many people, for example, have mobility concerns and so forth, that would help with some of the data-driven components to be able to make some further decisions. But to your point, we do have 2 members of the team that do go out occasionally.
Kara, I'm not talking about doing bookwork. I'm not talking about getting numbers and all that. I'm talking physically. He's not a cop. And the two gentlemen up there that work for the city, they're not cops. And there's no reason. If Fresh Start said, no, they can't go, then I'd cancel the contract for Fresh Start, period. If we can't find out for sure why these tents can't be moved off red zones, and if we had a city employee there, he can report back to the council or back to us here as members, that's all. I mean, we're just spinning, right? And you know, you can do all the work with Fresh Start paperwork, notes, and how many of this and all that there, but we got to see it ourselves. And to me, that's the way, as a counselor, that's the way I think it should be done, period.
CAO, did you want to comment on that?
Yeah, Your Worship, just so that is the work that is underway in terms of going through and looking at each individual's on a case-by-case basis to understand what is the gap, why can't they move, what is the issue, so that there can then be a discussion around, okay, how does the gap get closed and who's responsible for closing it?
Councillor Darling, over to you next.
Thank you, Your Worship. And just a quick question, I promise. Kara, just thinking about data, because my background's in medical research, where like privacy is a huge concern. But I'm just thinking of the different ways that you can report that in a de-identified way and in a way where you can't figure out which individual it is. So talking about this with the outreach team, is there a willingness to work with the data that way and like break it up? You know, this person needs to be near St. Joe's and these are the people who are there for those reasons versus mobility issues or harm reduction, addiction services, et cetera. Is there a willingness to report some numbers for that or information?
Through your worship to the councillor, yes and no at the same time. There's a willingness to work with us and be able to provide the details in regards to like the high level end of things, for example, as like, we might have this many people with mobility. When it comes to specific sites, we're still working through with the relationship in that respect for the trust and be able to share that information where we are a municipal government versus the Horizon Health, for example, and work in that same field. So we've had different conversations about how we can collect data, how we would store it, what type of data to share. We've worked through how we would collect that as well in regards to what types of data we're looking for. So we're in constant conversation with Fresh Start to work through this. And now as we're moving forward with putting together, or with Fresh Start putting together the case-by-case plans, we're trying to determine what type of information can be shared and what we can report back to council, and then how we can find solutions with the data that's being provided.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much.
Councillor Radwan?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Kara, I really wanted to know, I would think that all of the residents should be able to have a free bus pass from social development because they're low income, right?
Through your worship to the councillor, I don't know the specific ins and outs for who qualifies for bus passes from social development, but I do know there are specific requirements in order to meet the threshold to receive one.
Because when we were talking yellow zones, and this is why I'm struggling with the whole thing, I guess, we were trying to make sure that it was on a bus route so people could get to where they needed to go, whether it be the grocery store or to a doctor's office. And by the way, just to make sure that everybody knows, if somebody has a disability and needs to use accessible transit goes everywhere. And I just found out that I think 70% of the people using accessible transit, the fees are covered by social development. So there shouldn't really be any huge barriers there. So this is why I'm struggling. I mean, that was part of how we chose where the yellow zones were going to go. So to me, people should be able to move into those yellow zones. And unless somebody needs to be hospitalized, and if it comes to institutionalization, well, finally the province has to do that, and that's not going to happen overnight, and that's not something that not everybody understood. Everybody understood that there was high acuity out there. So, but still contracts were signed, agreements were set. And so for me as an employer, if somebody doesn't do a job, then they don't get to work.
Okay, I'm going to call the question in a second. I just want to wrap up a couple of things. We all know that we don't want encampments. We all know we would like to get this problem solved, and we all know we need more money to do it, and we need support, especially from the province. It's their lane to a certain extent. We all know there's nefarious activity in encampments, and it can be unsafe for some people in encampments. And we also know that people in encampments also get bullied. And I don't know if it was my husband who was telling me, but he was driving by, I believe it was Haymarket Square, and some guy just came along and just upended the huge garbage container, you know. So if the little encampment communities are actually, you know, using the containers, and then somebody does that, it makes it difficult as well. So there's a lot going on, and I do appreciate all your work on this one. I know it's not an easy file, and I know we would all love to get it wrapped up. And I feel like none of us, when I think back to 2021 when we were elected, I don't think, did we have homelessness then in 2021? So it's not what we signed up for, but we do have it, and we are the closest government to the people. So, you know, it's up to us to advocate on their behalf as well. So, like I said, thanks for the work you do. I'm going to call the question, the motion. Oh, sorry, the motion.
Page 1. Resolved that Common Council not receive and file this report. Further resolved that the CAO be directed to continue with the implementation of the Housing for All Red, Yellow, Green Zone strategy as approved by Common Council on September 8th and 22nd.
Okay. All right, so on the question, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Excellent. Thank you, team. Next item, City Clerk.
Next on the agenda is item 13.1 from the Finance Committee, the 2026 General Fund Operating Budget.
Councillor Sullivan, over to you.
Thanks, Your Worship. I'll move the recommendation on the 2026 General Fund Operating Budget as listed in the kit. And with the seconder, I'll make a few very short
I'll take
comments.
a seconder on that. Councillor Darling, thank you.
Thank you. We started working with the budget in June, and here we are December 1st for final approval. All the specifics are in the kit. We talked in depth last week about last meeting about the high points. Staff are certainly here if there are any questions, but I don't think we're going to beat the dead horse. So if there are any questions, we're happy to answer them. Other than that, I'm happy to vote on the motion.
Keep my mic on. Don't see any questions, so we've got a motion on the floor. I do have a question? Oh, no. Okay, got a motion on the floor, so I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Excellent. Next item, City Clerk.
Next, 13.2, another report from Finance Committee, 2026 Utility Fund Operating Budget.
Over to you, Councillor Sullivan.
Thanks, Your Worship. The 2026 Utility Fund Operating Budget, I'll move the recommendation in the kit.
Take a seconder on it. Councillor Stewart.
Say 2.
What? That's it?
Yeah.
Okey dokey, that's it, folks.
I got one more. I'll say my thank yous then.
All right. So the motion's on the floor. I'm going to call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Next item, City Clerk.
Your Worship, this item actually also has a bylaw to approve.
Oh, wait a minute. Where's my, that's not on my kit.
13.2.
Okay.
And it has a bylaw, a law to amend a bylaw respecting water and sewerage. So we just need the first and second reading for those. So 2 more motions.
Thank you. Take a seconder on that. Councillor Stewart. Thank you. On the question? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried.
A law to amend a bylaw respecting water and sewerage.
Second reading. Take a seconder. Councillor Ogden on the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried.
A law to amend a bylaw respecting water and sewerage.
Okay, Councillor. Next item, City Clerk.
Next is 13.3, Finance Committee Report on 2026 General and Utility Fund Capital Budget.
Councillor Sullivan, over
Thanks,
to
Your
you.
Worship. I'll move the recommendation in the report with regards to the 2026 General and Utility Capital Fund budgets.
Take a seconder on that. Counselor Harris is seconding it.
Thanks, Counselor. Just lots of thank yous to, certainly, I always thank the finance staff who are best in class. But really, it's back to the financial plan that we have and the fact that we start working on the budget in June, have lots of conversations about it. The folks across the organization, staff everywhere has the opportunity to discuss and talk about budgets, long-term plans, strategic plans, move SJ plans, play SJ plans, all feed into the budget. You know, and really the process that this council has fine-tuned over the last few years, supported by our fantastic staff, has led us to be sustainable, fiscally responsible, and responsible about our conversations with regards to the budget. So just all those thank yous as we do our last budget item. Thanks.
Okay, so the motion is on the floor. It's been seconded. It includes everybody's wish list, all of these budgets. So I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Well, congratulations, Councillor Sullivan, Chair of Finance. You've got us all wrapped up here tonight. Yeah, it's the fastest one yet. Next item, City Clerk.
And next, there's 13.4 Public Safety Committee Municipal Emergency Response Plan 2025 revision.
Over to Councillor Norton, who is the chair of that committee.
Thank you. I believe that I do have a motion here, and thank you to Chief Nickel for assisting in this. The city's current municipal response plan was adopted in October 2021 with the requirement for annual review and update as required. Administrative changes to what is referred to as MERP, or the Municipal Emergency Response Plan, are done as required. However, any updates or changes to the plan require council approval. Full review was conducted in 2025, which included internal and external engagement to ensure the plan reflects the current risk profile of the community. The result is a revised municipal emergency response plan, which includes 18 response plans for 18 primary hazards identified. The revisions were presented at the November 19th Public Safety Committee meeting. Only minor changes were made to the plan, and they are housekeeping changes to reflect current positions and contact information, adjustment of risk categories were proposed during the public safety meeting to reflect current experience, such as forest and wildfire risk was increased from 4 to 5. Which is a category of high. Flood risk was lowered from 5 to 4, no EMO activation for 5 years. And this still remains a significant risk, however. Complex structure fires increased from 4 to 5 to reflect our experience in the last 5 years. Recommendation is to adopt the revisions to the Municipal Emergency Response Plan as attached to the council package.
Second it? Okay, Councillor Stewart is seconding that. On the question, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Councillor Norton, to you and your team for that work. Next item, City Clerk.
And now we're into the items that are referred from Committee of the Whole. So the first one of those would be recommended appointments to committees. And for the Planning Advisory Committee, there's a recommendation to reappoint Brad Mitchell from January 1st, 2026 to June 30th, 2026, to appoint Jeff Roach, replacing Brad Mitchell, for a 3-year term from July 1st, 2026 to July 1st, 2029, to appoint Blake Slattery, replacing Ann McShane, for a 3-year term from December 2, 2025 to December 2, 2028, and to appoint Peter Cornfield, replacing Peter Pappas, for a 3-year term from January 1st, 2026 to January 1st, 2029, and for the St. John Free Public Library to appoint Kennedy McGeechee and Stephanie Wood Stevens, each for 3-year terms from December 2nd, 2025 to December 2nd, 2028.
Okay, I'll take a mover and a seconder on that. Councillor Harris and Councillor Darling on the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Next item, City Clerk.
And next is item 17.2. It's an amended and restated agreement of purchase and sale of 324 Charlotte Street. The resolution would be resolved that the city enter into an amended and restated agreement of purchase and sale for the property located at 324 Charlotte Street with JN Lafford Realty Inc., hereinafter Lafford. And the form is presented to Committee of the Whole at its meeting held on December 1st, 2025, amending the agreement of purchase and sale between the city and Lafford dated February 19th, 2025, and that the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute the said amended and restated agreement of purchase and sale and any other documents ancillary thereto.
Okay, I'll move that. Councillor Lowe is going to move that. And I'll take a seconder on it. Councillor Stewart on the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Next item, City Clerk.
And next, 17.3, recommendation from Committee of the Whole with respect to funding agreement, Firehouse Subs Public Safety Foundation of Canada. The resolution would be resolved that the city enter into a funding agreement with the Firehouse Subs Public Safety Foundation of Canada, generally in the form as attached to M&C 2025-272, to accept a grant award, and that the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute the said agreement and any documents ancillary thereto.
Okay, I'll take a motion to Councillor Darling and a seconder, Councillor Stewart on the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Next item.
Next is 17.4 from Committee of the Whole with respect to local leadership for climate adaptation, vulnerability assessment of the urban heat island effect and associated factors in St. John, New Brunswick. The recommendation is that the city enter into a grant agreement generally in the form as attached to M&C number 2025-262 to receive funding from the Green Municipal Fund under the Local Leadership for Climate Adaptation Program for the vulnerability assessment of the urban heat island effect and associated factors in St. John, and that the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute the said grant agreement and any other documents ancillary thereto.
Take a mover and a seconder on this one. Councillor Ogden and Councillor Radwan on the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. This is where we talked about this earlier, urban heat island effect. The Case for Shade is the book. Look it up. Next item, City Clerk.
Next, 17.5, this is an update right of first refusal for 75 Smythe Street. The resolution would be that the city sell the parcel of land bearing PID 55024-251 to 752472NB Inc., the assignee to Hardman Group, HGL, pursuant to the January 24th, 2025 election of HGL to exercise its right of first refusal under a lease between the city and HGL dated October 14th, 1980, as amended, and that the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute the necessary documents to effect the land transaction.
Mover and a seconder. Councillor Sullivan and Councillor Lowe on the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Next item.
Next is Housing for All License Agreement, Red Zone, Department of Transportation. The resolution would be that the city enter into a license agreement with His Majesty the King in the right of the province of New Brunswick, generally as presented to Committee of the Whole on December 1st, 2025, and two, that the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute the license agreement and any documents ancillary thereto.
I'd like a mover and a seconder on this, Councillor Sullivan and Councillor Ogden. This is the agreement that Kara referred to earlier. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Next item, City Clerk.
And the
17.
next item is 17.7.
Okay, this one here I'm sending over to Commissioner Poffenroth for an intro.
Thank you, Your Worship and members of council. This next presentation proposes a 2-year community safety and security team pilot program and a 2-year program community resilience fund. Together, these are intended to provide a visible, non-police presence to respond to nuisance and public disorder in defined areas of the city and to support small businesses and community organizations dealing with the impacts of those issues. The reports and presentation before council outlines the proposed community safety and security team, the recommended contract award to deliver that service, and the design of the Community Resilience Fund. With that introduction, I'll now turn it over to Ben Purinton, the Manager of Community Standards Compliance, to provide an overview of the proposed Community Safety and Security Team and the Community Resilience Fund. And I will note as well that Ronald Moncada is available virtually if there's any very detailed questions about the Community Resilience Fund. And with that, I'll hand it over to Ben.
Thank you, Commissioner Papenroth. Good evening, Your Worship and members of Common Council. This evening's presentation outlines the proposed Community Safety and Security Team and the Community Resilience Fund. I'll start with a brief overview of the presentation. Today I'll be providing an overview of the proposed Community Safety and Security Team, or CSS, the recommended proponent for the Community Safety and Security Team, the Community Resilience Fund structure and next steps, and a summary of the recommendations before Common Council this evening as it relates to the Community Safety and Security Team and the Community Resilience Fund. Beginning with an overview of the Community Safety and Security Team, which is a proposed pilot focused on nuisance and public disorder in a defined service area, Waterloo Village, key parts of the Uptown, and on Thorne and Rosse Avenue around emergency shelters. The proposed team is a visible, non-police presence which combines proactive patrols and dispatched response to non-emergency calls from stakeholders within the service area. The scope includes nuisance issues such as obstruction, disorder, vandalism, and other related concerns, with clear criteria for when to involve police, outreach, or other city services. The CSS team is a structured 2-year pilot with defined review points allowing for adjustment to patrol patterns, service hours, and deployment based on performance data and partner feedback. As mentioned earlier, the service area for the team includes Waterloo Village, portions of the Uptown, and the Thorne/Rosse Avenue areas. When not responding to calls, the team will be conducting patrols primarily around anchors such as King Square, the Loyalist Burial Grounds, Waterloo Street, and the shelter area along Thorne and Rosse Avenue. The proposed coverage is 24 hours, 7 days a week, using a continuous 2-person team on 12-hour shifts. Weekday supervision is built into the model to support training and oversight. The CSS team will be dispatched through a dedicated phone line for non-emergency nuisance and disorder issues within the service area. The number is not publicly posted at launch to avoid confusion with the St. John Police Force non-emergency line and to keep demand aligned with the pilot's capacity. Instead, the number will be shared directly with stakeholders in the area, including businesses, places of worship, shelters, and property managers as the team meets them on patrol. In the first few months, the team will focus on introducing themselves, explaining the service, and leaving business cards with the dispatch number. When calls are received, they'll go directly to the CSS staff, on-duty CSS staff who will screen them. And if the issue is within scope, the team will respond with an average response time, targeted averages response time of 20 minutes. The CSS team will work to address issues that include people blocking entrances, aggressive solicitation, nuisance and disorder, open alcohol or drug use, small debris removal, needle collection and disposal, reporting of vandalism and graffiti, and non-emergency wellness checks in public spaces. For these situations, the standard procedure is to approach, explain expectations, and seek voluntary compliance, and escalate only when defined thresholds are met. There are clear limits on the CSS team role. CSS staff are not police officers, and they do not conduct criminal investigations, detain individuals, or use force. For the nuisance or disorder issues we described, CSS operates as a low enforcement voluntary compliance-based model. Escalation would occur to police where safety risks are present, outreach with respect to encampment work or other support needs, EMS or 911 where there is medical distress, and works community standards or fire where there are property hazards, larger cleanups, or fire risks. Performance measures are built into the pilot. Key performance indicators include the number of calls, number of interactions, how often issues are escalated to police or other partners, and response times measured against the 20-minute target, as well as the number of completed patrols at key locations. There's also a clear review schedule, a 90-day review to look at early trends and recommend any immediate changes to hours or deployment, quarterly updates to Public Safety Committee on key indicators, patterns, or adjustments being made, and an annual update at the end to council at the end of year 1 at the time of contract renewal. Additionally, a final evaluation at the end of year 2 with a recommendation on whether to continue, adjust, or conclude the model. A recent RFP has resulted in GardaWorld being selected as the preferred proponent to deliver the CSS team pilot. GardaWorld is a Canadian-based company with experience in uniform guarding, multiple patrols, and community safety programs. They currently operate a similar community safety program for the city of Fredericton, including downtown patrols and dispatch. They're able to onboard and train team members to our standards, including training on de-escalation, trauma-informed practice, mental health awareness, first aid, and Narcan administration. As a larger provider, GardaWorld also offers us flexibility to scale staffing and adjust deployment if call volumes or service areas change during the pilot, while maintaining consistent reporting back to the city to support monitoring and adjustments.
Ben, can I interrupt you for 1 second till I get a motion to go past 10 o'clock?
Absolutely.
I'll take a motion to go past 10 o'clock. Thank you, Councillor Lowe. I'll need a seconder. Got them all over there. On the question, all in favor? Opposed? Yeah. Moved. Thank you. Back to you. Oh, there you go.
Now moving on to the Community Resilience Fund. This fund is a 2-year grant program designed to operate alongside the CSS team. Its purpose is to help small businesses and community organizations address the financial and operational impacts of crime and visible disorder and to support prevention measures. Eligible applicants will include small businesses, local nonprofits, commercial property owners, and for certain projects, groups of neighboring businesses. Eligible projects include repairs following vandalism or break-ins, security upgrades such as improved lighting or cameras, and shared area improvements led by business groups. The fund is structured as a 2-year pilot with up to $250,000 available each year. Individual projects will be eligible for up to $7,500 for businesses and nonprofits and up to $25,000 for collective or area-based projects led by groups of 4 or more businesses. Applications are processed twice per year. The Staff Evaluation Committee will review projects against a scoring matrix that looks at demonstrated needs, alignment with program objectives, potential impact, and geographic balance. And that concludes the overview of the CSS team and Community Resilience Fund. In terms of decisions this evening, staff have recommendations within 2 separate reports. In one report, staff are recommending the award of the Community Safety and Security Team contract to GardaWorld. And in a second report, staff are recommending that Council approve the Community Resilience Fund policy and direct staff to proceed with implementation of the Community Safety and Security Team and the Community Resilience Fund. And that concludes my presentation. I'm available to answer any questions that Council may have.
Okay, we do have a question here. Councillor Ogden, over to you for your question or comment.
Both. This is great. It's another step in the right direction. And it's, more eyes make a difference. And, the broken window effect. You get rid of the small stuff and it takes care of the big stuff. But I really think this is good. And the other thing we have to do is get our police department up to full complement. And whatever else we can do, we've got to make our streets safer. Thank you.
All right. Councillor Harris, over to you.
Yeah, Mayor, I'll move the first part of this to award the contract to GardaWorld.
Award the contract for the Community Safety and Security Team to GardaWorld Security at an annual cost of $780,000 plus HST for 1 year, with the option to extend for 1 additional year and one-year term, and that the mayor and common clerk be authorized to sign the contract documents necessary. Okay, so Councillor Harris is moving now. Take a seconder. Councillor Lowe. On the question, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, we need the other recommendations at the...
Your worship, it was in the PowerPoint. I believe the second
Yep.
part was to approve the policy.
Endorse the proposed, yeah, that's just back one. Yep, there's the recommendations up there. You can see them. I'll take a mover and a seconder. Councillor Sullivan's moving it. Councillor Lowe is seconding it. On the question, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Before I go, thank you, Ben. Appreciate your being here tonight so late, 10 o'clock. Thank you so much. Before we leave, I just have a couple little quick questions. Councillor Norton, is that little Norton up there in the audience? Little Norton, I didn't know that was you up there. I would have recognized you before. She's hiding, is she? Maybe she's getting into political science. Is she going in the future? Nice to have you here. The other thing I want to briefly mention is it's our CAO's last night here. I know. But I'm happy we started at 4 today and we went right past 10 tonight. He got the full feel of it all. So Brent, I just want to say thanks. You've done amazing work. I mean, you've been a great shepherd for me and for the team. And so it's been wonderful to work with you. Yeah, we're allowed to clap tonight. Yeah. And I want to wish him the best of luck in his new endeavor. It's not as good a move as staying here, but I think it's a good move for the city of St. John because I think your expertise will be perfect down there at the port. So Councillor Lowe, over to you. Did you want to say anything about how great we have been to work with? Just joking.
Oh, just, thank you, Your Worship, and thank you to the entire council and team. It's been great to work on a number of priority files over the 3 years as CAO and to further move the city forward. I know we all have an interest in doing that in our work, and that's what drives us each and every day. And so it's been great to move the needle a little further and the ball a little further down the field. So it's been a real privilege and honor, so thank you.
Our pleasure. Thank you, Councillor. All right.